Welcome to the Till Books Do Us Part podcast. I'm Justin.
And I'm Jackie. Join us each week as we, a husband and wife duo, deep dive and discuss your favorite books.
Hey, Jack.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, guys. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to episode 21 of the Empyrean series and episode 12 of Iron Flame, which is only going to be 13.
Yes.
And this is 12.
Next to last episode.
Yep.
So we're going to be covering chapters 57 through 60 in this episode.
Man, juicy ones.
Of Iron Flame. And I feel like this is one of those sets of chapters where it starts in the beginning is so totally different from where it ends.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have whiplash by the time you get to the end of these chapters.
Yeah, well, the last couple episodes have been like that, but yeah, this is another one. And, well, the next episode will be 2,
right,
based on how it ends.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I agree.
Definitely a lot of stuff going on.
Yep. So, before we spoil anything, spoiler warning, we'll be covering things from all of Iron Flame and some things from Fourth Wing. So if you haven't read all of that or you don't want it ruined, you might not want to listen, though we are basically at the end, so it's minimal things here we're going to ruin.
Yep, absolutely. Also, content warning. We are talking about an adult book and we say bad words.
Yep. To
the point where we almost started this episode with bad words before we even got to the content warning.
So yeah, y'all know how I be talking about editing.
Thank you, Justin.
So literally the first word of the episode was shit. And not like shit, I made a mistake. It was like in the middle of talking, like I caught Jack talking.
Yeah.
And it started with shit. So I had to do an edit already. I was just like, we can't start with that.
To clarify, it was you saying shit.
Was it? I thought it was you.
No.
That's weird.
I was talking shit, but you said the word shit.
That's true. So before we get to episode 57, I got my new edition.
It's not episode 57.
But it is
chapter 57.
Chapter 57. 57, that's a lot of episodes. All right. So my new addition this week for my Venom list is Dane.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's pretty obvious, right? Do you not feel that way?
No.
No?
I don't feel like it's pretty obvious that Dane is a Venom.
Fucking Jack grabs him and leaves gray handprints on his arms.
So are you saying
that can't be mended or healed, that just are there?
You're saying that you think that is Jack turning him into a Venom?
Oh, yeah. I think it's more than just like you draw power.
Can turn you into a Venom like a vampire.
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
So why didn't Violet turn Venom?
Who said she didn't? I'm just saying. Who said she didn't?
Who said she didn't?
So you are telling me you're 100% confident that Violet is not a Venom? 100%.
I am pretty confident that Violet is not a Venom.
Pretty is like 70%.
Think that there's definitely something with her hair.
Okay.
That maybe had happened to her mom or happened to her while she was pregnant with her.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm saying if you had to give me a hard number. Just give me a hard number.
On what?
How confident you are she's not Venom?
I am probably 75% confident.
Okay, 75% confident.
Yeah, maybe 80.
Okay. Maybe 80.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. Y'all remember that. She is 75 to 80% confident that.
I know. I am, again, and we talked about it before. I am so excited for when we read the next one. I'm primarily excited for you to be wrong about a lot of things. But I think I'm just as excited.
For somebody to be wrong? Besides me, my wife.
I am just as excited for myself to be wrong. I'm like, you know how I was really adamant about certain things?
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I mean,
yeah.
And like you miss 100% of the shots you never take. All right? Nerds, that's a sports quote. So look it up. Take a guess who said it. You'll be surprised if you don't know his name.
Well, I think we need to go ahead and get started with the episode.
All right, let's do it.
So that would be the chapter 57 summary.
All right.
So Violet tries to process her feelings about Xaden's second signet as she works to figure out what went wrong with the wards. A small crew heads out to the Athbane to meet with General Melgren with a few extras for safe measure. Violet and Xaden briefly talk about what this new revelation means for this relationship, and with Violet promising that they will be fighting about it later. Melgren tells him he asked to see them because he actually needs their help. He has seen the outcome of a future battle on winter solstice in which Samara is attacked and they are overrun by Venom. Ulysses, and in case you're wondering who that is, he is a member of the Assembly, quickly turns down Melgren's request for aid, and Xaden and Brennan back him up. Lilith wants a moment with her daughters where she tells them everything she has done has been to keep them safe. She also tells them she knows why their wards aren't fully functioning and gives them the other journal. Violet and Mira confirm her claims about the wards by checking on those wyvern they thought were dead, who are indeed not very dead.
Yeah, there's some shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
There is some shit going on with these wyvern. I got theories. This whole episode, I got theories.
You do.
And I got a couple wyvern theories.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's start with the day Augustine Melgren manifested his signet, because apparently that changed warfare for Navarre forever, according to the unedited history by Colonel Lewis Markham, who we know we can trust. So, my first question is, what was Augustine's signet? Because that's a big one.
So I think Augustine is General Melgren.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, which would mean that his signet
he can see the outcome of the battles.
He can see the outcome of the battles.
Okay.
And that's why it would have changed warfare.
Okay. So, because I was like, well, General Melgren can see the outcome of battles, and he can see where the marked ones were. Like, I thought it was like a bloodline thing, like a grandfather or father. Like, damn, like, what was his signet?
Yeah.
But now I can see why I'm dumb and you're right, though. So, I got it.
And I don't think that that's him being able to see where the marked ones are as long as they're in groups of 3 or less. It means that if there is a battle with 3 or more of them, he can't see it because he can't see anything to do with groups of 3 or more. But I don't think that means that he can specifically see the marked ones if there's less. He can just see people and battles in general.
Okay. I just thought it was something with Fourth Wing with like when they were under the tree meeting or something. It was like just this meeting. Like it's illegal for them to meet in groups of larger than 3. That's what I'm thinking. It's referencing Fourth Wing.
Yeah, it's referencing a meeting.
Like against the rules
it's not
to be
a battle. Yeah, it's confusing for sure.
So yeah, you're right. I think I was thinking of the meeting in groups of 3, which is against the rules of Basgiath.
Right.
Okay, cool. All right, sweet. I'm good then.
Because I guess it was like if they were to do anything while in that group of more than 3, he wouldn't be able to see it.
Right.
So they're not allowed to ever like gather like that.
Damn, you're so smart. So smart. All right.
We're figuring this out together.
Yeah, I love it. Let's do it.
So Violet apparently spent the night in the library while she was working through her feelings.
Yeah.
Following finding out about Xaden's second signet.
Sure.
And this is definitely fair, I feel like, for her to take that time. I could have never done it, though. Like, there's no way that I'm not immediately coming and asking all the questions.
Yeah. She also was down there with Dane.
She was there with Dane.
So also, just like you, this wouldn't happen for you, and this wouldn't happen for me.
Yeah.
Like, and again, it's fine. Our trust level is great, but fuck you, Dane. You know what I mean? Like, nah, not Dane. Like Dane, not Dane.
Yeah, I definitely think that would have been hard for Xaden probably to be like, oh yeah, well, she just found this out about me, and now she's around a memory reader also.
Yeah,
not great.
Who like nobody really trusts.
Right.
So no, I'm good.
Well, she does say that she recognizes that Xaden telling her was the ultimate gesture of trust, and I was really glad, and I was hoping this is how she was going to take it. Because I did, I had guessed about Xaden's second signet and had already thought about what Violet's reaction to it would be. Mm-hmm. And I think that she could have had her hold grudges about this for a lot longer and really kind of draw this out as like another major issue in their relationship. But I feel like she was able to logic through it and they worked through it pretty fast.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's because there's such pressing other matters or whatever at hand. Where it's just like, I can't deal with this shit right now.
Right.
Like, whatever. We're just going to have to move past this because we don't have time to get through it. Whereas the beginning of Iron Flame, I felt like
she had all the time in the world.
And she just wouldn't let it go. Mm-hmm. And, you know what I mean? You just like, it gets exhausting. So I was also happy that this went, what seemed like somewhat quick.
Yeah. And like I said, I felt like that's exactly how she should have taken it. Like, does she have a right to question, okay, what does this mean as far as their relationship? Have you manipulated that in some way? But as far as him not telling her, this is the biggest secret that I feel like, okay, yeah, it's justified in him not telling her.
Yeah. And I agree too. It would take a lot to, like you said, it's a true, like, ultimate gesture of trust. Mm-hmm. You can destroy me with this information. So
right.
The first note that I had was that when Andarna was basically not allowed to come to the meeting with Melgren, which is how this is going to start, she cursed Taryn's entire family line and then blocked him and Violet out. And I was like, that's like the equivalent of like our kid slamming a door or something like that. You
and
know what I
locking
mean? Like,
it, yeah.
where you're just like, asshole,
Right.
you know?
Oh,
Yeah, throwing a temper tantrum.
Again, you know, she's a teenager, but actually has the power.
Yeah, true.
We also learn in that interaction from Taryn that dragons only sense each other mind to mind when they allow it. And I feel like there's been a couple of instances where this was important, where we were like, oh, well, why didn't so they know so-and-so is coming?
Right.
They can block each other.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like real sad in this scene because it made a mention that Sigale was not standing next to Taryn in their little formation. And I'm definitely more upset about that than anything that happens between Violet and Xaden.
Yeah. And, you know, luckily they work it out. But Taryn and Sigale are supposed to be leading the riots. You know what I mean? Like they're, you know, co-partners in leading this thing.
Duo.
Yeah. Yeah. So they had a little tiff. You know, dragons have tiffs too.
Yeah. Well, I will say the other heartbreaking part of that whole thing I felt like was Xaden asks for Violet to let him in so he could talk to her mind to mind. And he tells her he would understand if she told the others what he is as a punishment for the crimes he's committed against her. And like, I kind of chose not to be cynical about this because you could have looked at this like a lot of different ways as far as like, you know, he's just saying that or, you know, whatever. But I just let it go and I just accepted it for like that sweet gesture of like trust, like, hey, like, so if you feel like I need to be punished for this.
Yeah, I can see it both sides. Like the cynical side that's like, yeah, he's trying to do self-preservation, where he's like, you know, trying to play on your emotions. Like, I totally get it. I deserve it if I die for this. Right. You know, like you have the power to end my life and I understand if you want to murder me for what I've done.
See, that's exactly what the cynical side of me like wanted, but I was like, no, I'm not going there. Yeah. I'm going with this is sweet.
And I felt the same. Like, yes, the cynical part understands it, you know, wants to do that because it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I looked at it the same way. It's like he's genuinely like, look, you know, I'm giving you the power. I love you. I'm giving you the power to do what you want. That's how much I love you. Like, you know my secret. Like, whatever.
Take me out if you need to.
Yeah. So I felt the same way. But he does tell her that he never used a signet to gain information to influence her feelings. And a lie detector determined that's a fucking lie. So he does admit that it's hard because their bond makes it like easy for her to share her intentions without realizing it. But obviously his signet has influenced her since the beginning, like the whole time. He's, you know, you could make a woman or a man fall in love with you if you always could see in pictures their intentions, which also is linked to their feelings and their emotions. You could always have the correct response. I mean, you can anticipate everything they want if they are feeling a little whatever that day. You know what I mean? Feeling a little ready.
Frisky.
You know what I mean?
You can capitalize on it.
If you wanted to, and that person is going to start feeling lust or whatever and more of a connection, like, yeah, there's no way you don't, like, use it every step of the way.
Well, because even, like, intention-wise, you know, you just use in a situation like that, for example. Like, say you're doing something and their intention changes, you know, like, you would notice, like, to stop doing that.
If I knew the line,
positive or negative, like their intention changes for the good, you know, then obviously you keep down that path.
Sure.
It changes for the bad. Okay, well, I got to switch gears here.
I would love to know the second something I was doing started to annoy you versus when it's got to the point to where you have to let me know it's annoyed you. You know what I mean? Like, that's a bummer. Where you're like, oh shit, my bad. Like, he's been holding that shit in, waiting for me to stop, just fucking fuming until I wouldn't stop. You know, had I known that from the beginning, you would never feel this way, you know?
Yeah, I definitely don't think that I would want that ability. I wouldn't want to know, you know, every time anybody felt anything negative, like, towards me.
Yeah, I mean, that would suck, but I would like to know, like, how to always capitalize on, you know, positive and negative things
being
from
able
the personality.
To read people.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I can see that.
So...
Well, then Taryn apparently offers to scorch him, Xaden, that is, but says she seems attached, which obviously Taryn wouldn't actually do that.
No.
Because of how it would affect Sigale.
Yeah. No, but he does, you know, he talks a big game. He's 100 years old and he's old and cranky.
True.
It's also awesome and one of my favorite characters, I guess, from the book.
Yeah, we saw stuffies of like little TY, I guess Beanie Babies, I guess they were.
That's what they look like, yeah.
Yeah, at the store today. That looked like Taryn and Scale.
Yeah, they were sitting like side by side too. And it was weird because they had nothing to do with the Empyrean series or whatever. It just happened to be, there. But yeah. Anyway, she's asking if he still uses his signet on her, right? And he's like, no, I stopped the moment I realized you were more to me than the general's daughter. And then the moment I realized that the harm that Dane had done, and I was like, well, those are like a year apart. And that I was no better than he was. And I'm like, well, which one? Because you just grouped him like that was the same time. But you realized that she was more than the general's daughter to you in the beginning of Fourth Wing.
Yeah, I feel like it's implying that it was after Resin because of the whole like the harm Dane had done situation. And the moment that he realized she was more than the general's daughter, I feel like he didn't do a very good job explaining that.
Right.
I feel like he has said that has happened at several different points so far, but here, when he was taking her back when he thought she was dying, when he was taking her to Eurasia after Resin, he was kind of like professing his love, like, really knew that this was the real deal kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
But I feel like she gives him hope here because she says, we'll be fighting about this later. So she's kind of like,
yeah. And
this isn't over. We're going to continue talking about it.
I think the problem is Xaden overpromises. Because he's never going to be able to stop using the signet on her.
Yeah.
And there's a part later where I'm going to point it out because he doesn't. But yeah, and it's fine. And I'm not even like, busting his balls over it. I'm just saying, like, don't be like, no, I'm never going to use it again. You can't help it, dude. Like, you know what I mean? You're going to see the pictures,
unless he's shielding against her all the time.
Which is just
he says that she's going to push things through.
Right. And like you wake up first thing in the morning and she looks at you and you know her intentions, you're going to be like, time to capitalize, friend. You know what I mean? As you should. But yeah, anyway, that was my thought. I was just like, those are weird because those are two very distant apart things. So they end up, who end up doing what? Xaden ends up leaving his right hand free to wield. And I imagine when they're making this show, whoever they are, there's going to be lots of like throwing their hands or whatever. Like, when you imagine basically every movie that uses magic.
Yeah.
I just am, when I'm picturing things in my mind, while I read, I'm not picturing that. And I don't know why. I'm just not. But
I don't feel like I pictured as much of the hand stuff when I read it to begin with either.
I love hand stuff. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. I definitely noticed a lot of it more on this read, where it seems like they actually do have to use their hands to wield.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's mentioned several times, so.
Yeah. I do hope the show does a good job of not making that cheesy.
Right, because there is a line of where you can be like, all right, dude. Again, Harry Potter, sick, right? Like, Lord Voldemort, hey, sorry to say his name. All right, I put that shit out there, it's on me. But, you know what I mean? He's got that he's got that like loose ass wrist with his wand too. You know what I mean? Like he don't give a fuck. He just lets that thing slang. But he also throws a second hand in there sometimes, and he just that one kind of is just like
directing.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like really up there above his head, kind of just like powering down like a scorpion tail onto this one, but it's not doing anything. So I could accept that if we could.
We could get some of that.
Yeah, if we get some of that in here, I'd be cool with that.
I think that would definitely be quite dramatic.
I think if people saw what you just saw, they would understand what I'm saying more.
I kind of wish some people had have been able to see what I just saw with you demonstrating that so artfully.
Well, because you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what it looks like. Anyway, so we end up having this meeting, right? And it gets kind of like contentious pretty quick, but there ends up being 7 riders, including General Melgren and General Sorengale in this group that is coming from Basgiath or Navarre or whatever at this point. And one of them is Colonel Fremont, who apparently is such a powerful air wielder that he can suck the air out of your lungs.
Yeah, that made that signet seem much more legit because air wielder, just being able to like...
We can't talk.
I know. Push wind around. That didn't seem that exciting to me.
Right, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, you light a bunch of candles in your house, and
Yeah.
you're like, fuck, I hate that guy.
I mean, you could like throw somebody with wind for sure.
That'd be cool. Like I said, hurricane force winds, tornadoes, like that's just destructive. I don't,
Yeah, true.
you could tear some shit up, but yeah, this is cool too.
Sucking air out of your lungs.
Yeah.
That's intense.
That is intense. So I thought that was kind of cool.
So I definitely caught the description of Lilith in this scene because she was being described as looking super exhausted. She had deep bruises under her eyes. She's paler than normal and has flight lines that show she's been spending a lot of time in the sky, like goggle lines.
Yeah.
And what is she doing in the sky so much?
Well, it's military, right? You just lost half your forces. Some people are going to have to fill in. Maybe she's got time on patrol now. I don't know. Maybe she's been pulled, Baz Guy at the War College,
Yeah.
commanding officer is less important right now. So she's probably been pulled back to a different duty.
Yeah, and it definitely
Actually,
seemed
she's
like...
not. She's still at Baz Guy. But,
Yeah.
Maybe been doing extra duties.
Well, it seemed like someone has been kind of keeping tabs on the people that left and went to Eurasia.
Yeah.
Because she seemed to have a lot of information about what was going on with them. I just didn't assume it was her that was actually going out and doing that recon.
Yeah. And I didn't think all that much about it, but now that we're talking about it, that's kind of where I'm thinking. She was having to pick up some of the slack.
Mm.
So we jump into the conversation with Milgren, who's just such a fuck. Milgren's just a fuck, man. Like, he's right there. I told you, he's a venomous bitch, too. I said it from the beginning. I'm not going to back off on that one. Add him to your list if you want. He's a venomous fuck, though. So he immediately tells Xaden that Xaden caused destruction by dropping wyvern carcasses on the outpost.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And this is my new favorite term. Now, he's gaslighting. We got gaslighting everywhere. All right, we got
you just love it.
General on lieutenant gaslighting going on out here. And he was like, do you know the lengths we went to keep this quiet and the civilians we had to, which it kind of like blanks out, but it's implied, kill, I guess.
I assume that's what that meant.
Right.
Like, I was a little, I side-eyed that myself because it's like the civilians we had to, like,
murder?
Right.
Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know. Why did you have to do that? So, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, it's my fault that you're a piece of shit. But then he says you tore down centuries of work, of tightly woven defensive strategy. And I'm like, okay, well, like, we know that since the beginning of like the first 6 riders or whatever, we get these wards in place, however long that was. Because the 3 siblings was 600 years ago, right? Or no, it was longer than that. The 600 years ago was the 6 riders blocking out the venom and the wards. Yeah. So.
Sure.
Yeah. So basically saying you fucked up everything since then. Like for 600 years, we've been trying to keep this secret, however long it's been.
From the first 6. Yeah. I would think so.
I guess 400 years because we know 200 years after is really where everything kind of gets convoluted. But anyway, he basically confirms like, yeah, we're basically like fuck everybody outside the border.
Yeah.
And then he says that he let them go and he let them take half the quadrant, which I said I agree with. Because
he said he would need them.
Yep. And then he tells them, because they're basically like, go fuck yourself. Him and Ulysses have this history, obviously, of like whatever.
Negativity.
They were together in the Navarian military.
Which is weird because I think when I was originally reading that, I was thinking, oh, well, it's because Ulysses was a part of the rebellion. But all of the people involved in the rebellion were executed.
Yes. So the vibe that I got was that Ulysses was in the Navarian military, not maybe part of the rebellion, but just witnessed something that opened his eyes to it or whatever.
Oh, interesting.
And
maybe.
he jumped ship and he jumped just like Brennan. Like Brennan wasn't a part of that rebellion, but he found out in,
Yeah, good point.
And we had also heard in one of the earlier chapters or read in the earlier chapters that basically after Major, like most of them are told the truth anyway. Mm-hmm. So who knows what rank he was? They might have just told him the truth and he was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
so
I'll accept that entirely.
Yeah, all of that. But anyway, after, Ulysses is like, fuck yourself. He's like, oh no, don't go. They're going to overrun us at Samara. He tells them they've seen it. Or he's seen it, and that they come for him on solstice and they win. Mm-hmm. Which, Which is pretty much true.
Well, except for not at Samara.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because then somebody points out, like, you don't know when the battle happened. And so I wonder if there's something that he sees in that vision that confirms to him that it was solstice.
Well, like, it's the longest night, right? So
Yeah.
my thought is that being referenced? Can he just see that? What can he see?
Yeah.
It just...
Need more clarification about his signet.
Yeah, I agree. Then Violet asks Xaden to forget feeling guilty about reading her intentions and read theirs, which she references later. She's basically asking him to use it on people, which is what the military would do. And everybody with the major, everybody on the major has their stuff. I'm sorry, everybody besides the major has their shields up, and
Correct.
she does not. She's scared and intends to do whatever she needs to basically get them to agree, so it makes it seem like, what he's saying is true, or she believes it's true. He also picks up that she wants to go eat something after the meeting and argue with Lilith, which I was like, a lot more detailed than just like an intention. Like, that's pretty much thoughts.
Right. And that's what, like, he said, it's the thought before a thought, which I'm like, that's basically the thought.
Yeah. I
if you intend to think something.
I think he's trying to convince himself he's not an intrinsic.
Right.
He's a type of intrinsic, and I think he's an intrinsic.
He's an intrinsic. It does seem like he has a lot.
No, bro, you're just an intrinsic.
Right.
Like, that's probably how they see it before they're murdered. We just don't ask them.
Right.
Because we murder them.
That's true.
Before they can see shit.
Very good point. Well, then Lilith says that if the hatching grounds in the Vale are compromised, then Dragonkind won't stand aside. Which Taryn says she's presumptuous to speak on their behalf. But she also says, like, you guys fly for the Empyrean. But even the Empyrean seems to be divided on this. And so that's, like, what's confusing is, I guess, a concept of saving the Empyrean and saving the Vale, their hatching grounds.
Well, and help me remember. So we know different places on this continent have specific dragons hatching grounds, like, these.
Right.
So is the Vale a specific?
So the different hatching grounds at other places are former hatching grounds.
Okay.
And then when they decided to unite, they all came to the Vale, like, together collectively.
Okay. So the Vale is just where all the different dragonkind who were in their own specific hatching grounds
used to be.
All came together, and the Vale is all of them collectively.
Right. And that was like something one of the, the little excerpts at the top had said that was something that was sacrificed, when they united.
I vaguely remember that.
Was that different hatching grounds.
Okay, I like that. I like that. That's good.
There was also a moment in this interaction where that captain was yelling at Violet and Lilith pulled a dagger out. And it's like, was that to defend Violet?
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it's like all of these, conflicting things about the mom, where I feel like she was putting in all of these little things to, like, try and show that she really did care about her kids at the very end, right before she's gone.
Well, and I think the whole point is, like you said, to show that once she maybe found out the truth, I don't know, because she knew the truth.
Yeah, no, she's known the truth for a long time.
Well, it's like, when's the turning point? Was it Varish? When he started torturing her and was, like, going to kill her? That was when she really seemed to, like, soften up.
Yeah, that's what's confusing is I feel like the way that she's presenting it now is that she was soft the whole time and, like, she was doing all of these different things to protect them. But definitely the way she went about it was not ideal.
Yeah.
I feel like in a lot of ways she's like a Snape character to me, where his intentions were good, but his delivery was terrible.
Yeah, I could buy that. Yeah, maybe. Well, either way, Melgren can't convince them to agree to be allies. And by the end of this episode, we'll have all that figured out.
Yeah, well, he even says that, like, he's trying to convince them, and he says he has King Tori's word that if they fight with them, they will respect the independence of their Ryodan city. Which, like, seems like his just desperate attempt, but I also don't believe that. Like, I don't believe that if they were to come and fight, then he would actually have followed through on that.
I don't believe any of that. And if King Tori was approached by him, he'd be like, what? He'd be like, yeah, I'm going to tell him whatever we got to tell him, and then we'll fucking kill him when we're done. Like, that's the plan. Like, kill the Venons, kill you.
Right.
be done with it. And that's exactly what happened. But either way, when the meeting first happened, you could tell, and there was a mention that Lilith was kind of looking for, or no, this was night. This is when she's about to find out that Brennan's still alive. Okay. This is later when Brennan's not there.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, Brennan steps out and now she ends up seeing him for the first time.
Correct.
And all three of them are standing side by side. And he is the one who officially like declines the offer, kind of like speaks for the assembly. So in my head, he's stepping out. She sees him and he's like, and I'm in charge.
Yeah,
like,
he definitely took this as an opportunity to like twist the knife with that situation and knew that it would be shocking to her that he was alive, but also saying, F you.
And I'm a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I understand Violet's whole argument about all of this because her argument's valid. If their whole point was protecting everyone, then technically they would be putting their feelings aside in this situation because that is their biggest
it's just a trust issue.
Is Navarre isn't protecting all of the innocent civilians. And now, in technically this case, they are not protecting innocent civilians because of their grudge against Navarre.
Yeah, I mean, it's a moral dilemma because if you don't help them, you're no better than what they've done. The thing that you're against or upset about, now you're doing the same thing. You're no better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do help them, they've tortured you, murdered, all of this stuff. They can't be trusted. You're pretty sure they're lying to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a moral dilemma.
And it's like, I mean, and obviously it would feel good to be like, no, we're not helping you because,
fuck you.
You didn't help us.
Right.
But again, it's all about the innocents that would die.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of them would. And
probably will.
And I was saying a lot of them are going to. So Zayden end up, man, tell you what, sometimes it just comes out of me. Sometimes I leave out all the shit, verbs, nouns, adverbs, adjectives, all of it.
I think it doesn't help when we record late at night.
It doesn't help. Yeah, you just can't get your shit together, So anyway, Zayden says something to Melgren that I thought was important. And he says, if I were you, I'd try calling on the allies who helped win the Great War in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, oh, wait, you cut off contact with them centuries ago. And I was like, well, like, it's got to be the Owl Kingdoms. Like, who else would it be?
Yeah, that was my first thought, too.
So that's why, you kind of think Onyx Storm, I think at least Onyx Storm, based on, what was it, Zayden's POV? Like, I think had some mentions of, like, Isle Kingdoms or whatever.
Well, in the blurb said something about like traveling to far away places.
So yeah, I think all of that, all of those little kind of hints are in there leading towards that. But,
I agree.
So Lilith wants to talk to Mira and Violet alone.
Mm-hmm. And she was in shock and said like, he's alive, talking about Brennan. And Mira just says, obviously. Like, it made me laugh.
Yeah.
Cut the tension here.
Yeah, and they're real upset with their mom, and it's tough because even on the second read through here, I just have a soft spot for Lilith, and I don't know why. I don't know why, because I didn't start off that way.
I have complicated feelings about her.
I think it's because I'm a parent.
Yeah.
And so, you start off disliking her, I did at least, based on like, man, how could you treat your kids that way or do that or whatever? But now I'm also looking at her as a parent and like, oh my God, how much pain could that be? All your kids are just like, fuck you, like whatever.
Right.
That's torture.
And especially if you believe that the whole time she genuinely had the intentions of keeping them safe. And if there's...
Which I don't think she did.
I think there's a possibility that she did. I think there's a possibility we're going to find out a lot later on that she was doing behind the scenes to protect them.
Sure. Okay. I could buy that. It's just she sent him in the writer's quadrant where like everybody does.
I just feel like with the way she set up her death to be as tragic as it was, I feel like she either wanted you to be confused about her, which we are, or she's setting it up for later.
Like a martyr?
Yeah, like a martyr kind of thing where, you learn that she really was doing X, Y, and Z things to protect them.
And I can see that coming too. Like, I agree. I have a little bit of soft spot. So either way, she's going to talk to him alone. And she basically tells him the thing she wants the most is for, her children to live. Mm-hmm. And she says, whatever wards you've raised from works, journals are going to fail. and tells her to go back and cut open the wyvern and open them up because they're being created by what she refers to as cold marked rocks, which are runes.
Which I felt like that was a big revelation, that they're being created by runes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, runes. Like,
Rocks,
they learn how to make
with
runes.
runes.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Because it's like they're pulling the magic from the earth, but they're also using
runes to store it.
Well, like, and rocks, which are just nothing now. They've probably taken the magic from them, and they're just stone, and they're making runes out of nothing.
Yeah.
Which means they don't need shit to,
Yeah, which, I mean, that was the rocks that Xaden had, and
that's right.
They were, the Rebellion relic did have a rune on it. I guess you can put a rune on anything.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I had forgotten about that. That's a good point. So, either way, now we know they're using runes, which is crazy. And she said, if you don't fix the wards, they're just going to slowly decline over time. Like, yeah, they're extended right now, but they're going to keep shrinking unless you fix the issue.
Right, which I think was a question we had last week.
Yep. This part was interesting. She says, your father told me that his research showed that Warwick never wanted anyone to hold power besides Navarre, and he always wanted them to have the upper hand. And that Lyra thought knowledge should be shared, and that Warwick had intentionally lied. And I was just like, all right, this confirms that Lilith knew this other stuff too.
About the dad's research.
About the research, and like that he was looking into how all this started.
Which I didn't even catch the fact that she said, like, your father showed me, until I just read your note.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and that is big.
Yeah.
So, like, we know he was researching Feathertails. Now we know he was researching
the original six
creation
riders
of the wards, and
this makes it seem like Lilith
knew about it too.
Knew. Now, is this, and I don't think it will be, and I hope not, because that'd be devastating for Violet. But is it a thing where you find out like she turned the father? Like, I don't think that he died from a heart attack, just natural causes. I think there's something nefarious going on, or he's not dead.
Yeah, I think that he was killed by leadership. I don't think that Lilith had anything to do with it, but I think he was killed by leadership.
I do too.
For knowing too much.
Right, I do too. I agree. And I don't think that he's still alive. I think that he's dead. But yeah, I think leadership killed him. And I don't think that Lilith turned him in for this, but it opens up that as a possibility because she knew about it.
Interesting.
And I don't think she did. I think this is trying to paint her in a better way. Like, she's known what's going on, and she was an active part of trying to help fix it with her dad.
Yeah.
So that's the way I took it. Anyway, she gives Violet the journal of Lyra.
Yeah. And she also kind of puts a lot of pressure on Violet because she says she's trusting her to not only protect herself, but also Mira and Brennan now. And she said it's because, like, she knows that she has the mind of a scribe, and she's going to be the one to figure everything out.
Yeah, which is true. But she actually needs Jasenia because it's in Moranian. For those of you that speak it, most people don't. And Jasenia is the only one that can translate it.
Yeah.
So it's a bummer.
Well, speaking of the parenting and being able to relate here, I did feel like what Lilith says here was impactful because she says, you don't have to understand my choices. You simply have to survive. I love you enough to bear the weight of your disappointment. Which that's like a deep parenting quote because, yeah, absolutely. Like, there are a million decisions that you make that your children don't like, but that's for their safety. And you're doing that as a parent constantly.
Yeah, I mean, our kids just can't eat unlimited candy all day, right? Just simple stuff, right? Because, like, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen because we're concerned with their health and their teeth.
Right.
So yeah, I get it. This is deep. I'm with you. So either way, they leave the meeting and they leave it on a big fuck you. Like, we're not helping. And they end up going to cut open the wyvern carcasses. Like, okay, this is what she said to do. Let's check it out. So they cut them. There's two of them. They cut one of them open and they find a humming piece of, oh no, I don't know what that word's supposed to be. What the fuck is that? Palace chunk. Is that what it was? Was that what it was? Did I read that they found a humming palace chunk?
I don't think so.
Probably not. So they found a humming chunk of onyx marked with a complex rune inside the wyvern. Which I was like, okay, that's crazy.
And the fact that it was onyx. I feel like when you read this book again, you catch so many instances of the word onyx and different things it could be referring to. It's insane.
And it's like onyx storm, right? You have his onyx eyes. You have onyx stuff with venom. It's all mixed in. Like, man, to think this shit that far forward, just it blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, so Violet's thinking to herself, like, oh shit, somebody get the venom runes. And as she said, like, as if the stone called its partner, the other wyvern, who's 20 feet away, shudders, and then a giant golden eye blinks open. And they're like, fuck you, right? And they kill it. So my thought was golden eye. More to come in theories.
Yeah, I have something about this scene in theories too.
All right. That's the end of the chapter. Chapter 58.
All right, so the chapter 58 summary. A week has passed, and Violet and Xaden still haven't had their fight about his second signet. When he gets back, he decides the best place for them to do so is a place they have fought a lot, the sparring gym. He quickly gets Violet to the mats as they hash out the state of their relationship and make some promises to each other in order for them to move forward. Xaden starts to open up to Violet about things like his mom and the experience of his signet manifesting. Next up is Violet in Battle Brief, where they have been keeping an eye on the movements of the Venom forces. Some cadets are questioning why they're not helping Navarre, but Violet is too busy figuring out that the real target for the Venom attack is not actually at Samara after all. She reveals this to Xaden and her squad, and everyone looks to Violet to help them decide whether they're going to go fight. True to her normal self, Violet decides the right thing to do is to go in and fight for those who can't fight for themselves.
A lot going on. A whole lot going on.
I feel like it jumped like immediately into, oh wow, like.
Well, yeah, I mean, about to
go down.
Yeah, the second she figures it out, from then on, it's immediate. So, yeah, I don't know, a lot going on. Works journal at the top, always important. It says the combined hatching grounds at Basgiath is our generation's greatest asset and our greatest liability. And I was like, okay. That makes sense. At first, I didn't understand what he meant, but I think, yeah, I get it. Like, that's what makes you strong, and that's what they're always going to be trying to take down.
Yeah, and I think that I almost felt like this made me feel like we're going to get journals from the other six at this point, especially when we have such conflicting views or viewpoints between Warwick's and Lyra's.
Yeah.
I think that, that's going to be something she's kind of holding on to, that we're going to get journals from the other ones at some point and get the full picture because of that.
That's where I thought it was going also.
Yeah, but I definitely think that what they mean is that, in this context, we have now the hatching grounds are a liability because they're all in one place. Except for the ones that are now in Erasia. But in general, like if you have all of them at Basgiath in the Vale, then it all being in one place kind of means that if the Venom were to drain them, it would be catastrophic.
Right. Yeah.
But I also don't know exactly what the full ramifications would be if the Venom were to drain the hatching grounds, because obviously that means that they're super powerful. But does it mean that no more dragons would be able to be born?
So I have a theory.
Ooh.
But it's all going to come together later.
Okay.
But bookmark this in your brain.
Okay.
Why is it that they want the hatching ground so bad? To drain the power, right? Like.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep that thought. Keep that thought.
I'm keeping it.
Okay.
I can't wait.
All right. So, and it's a good one.
Okay.
I'm going to let you know now. Like, this ain't no bullshit where I'm going to be like, I think the sky's red. I'm not saying some bullshit like that.
Okay.
Like, this is a real deal. Like, y'all going to be like, what the fuck? He's right.
Well, can't wait.
Okay. So, Violet and Xaden are in the sparring gym, right? Like you said, talking for the first time since they met with Melgren. And Violet says, we don't keep secrets. No more ask me, no more, test me to see who's in, who's out in the relationship. Full disclosure, it's nothing. And Xaden says, done. And I was like, you're right, dude.
Yeah.
Like, nah.
Which I thought that it was insane in general that they had to go that long before working things out, because it's like, supposedly he got sent away right after they got back from this meeting. Like,
right.
No, I'm going to be like, Xaden needs a minute because I'm going to chat with him before he goes off on this mission. But
yeah, I can't imagine us having something
that major
like that, and me being like, all right, then. See you in a week. Which
definitely I do remember, like when we were doing long distance, we absolutely had unfinished conversations or things that like, something would happen, or even not necessarily between us, but something that we needed to talk about, like something important that we would have to wait days and days in order to be able to talk about it. But yeah, no, I would have forced that conversation before he left.
Yeah. he's able to get away for a little bit, and like that really helps when both parties can separate and then get their thoughts together and cool down and like come up with like, you know, in the moment.
So are you saying you wish that we had that more often?
No, I like the way we do. We you know, we're just like, we got this problem. Let's hash this thing out
immediately.
Yeah, and it's not always like 5 seconds and simple and easy.
But we don't let things fester though, and that I think
it's more than like we don't go to bed mad. Yeah, like no, if we're and I'll be the first one to tell you like. I always am like, I gotta walk away.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how I work. Like, and she knows we were good, right? We like, yeah, we got this argument. I'm like, all right, I gotta walk away because I'm not gonna budge.
Yeah, and as much as I understand it, it still makes me angry every time.
I know. And I can see how that would be frustrating. Yeah. But like, I won't budge. I'm gonna sink in and I'm gonna dig
But for
in
it's for very short periods of time. It's not days. Like, I could not deal with days.
No, it's usually like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I go watch an episode of something I want to like watch on TV for a minute, get my shit together, think about why I'm being an asshole, why I'm wrong. Because typically, this is honestly, like, this is the truth. Like, you know what? I did fuck up. That is on me. That is my bad. And then I usually come back to you and I'm like, my bad. I love you. I work on it.
And that's
typically
how it goes. Yeah.
I just admitted I'm almost always wrong, but that is the truth. Anyway, so like 14 or 15 seconds after Zayden said he was like done, I won't keep secrets.
Full disclosure.
Yeah. I'll give him benefit of the doubt. I'll say 17 seconds. He says, I need you to know no matter what information I hold, you trust me and love me enough to realize I'd never let it hurt you. I think he just said he's going to keep information from you.
I think he did.
I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure he just
But just won't hold any information that affects her agency.
Right, her agency. Yeah.
But like he'll keep all kinds of other information.
Well, he said even if it's classified, you know, he's learned his lesson.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's classified. Well, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
But as long as it only affects her agency, which he gets to decide.
Right. Now, after he says this, right, which he has now been like, okay, well, I might keep some things from you and I'm going to decide this. And so you would think that Violet, who is, you know, one of the more intelligent people on this continent, it seems like, would be like, bitch, what? But what she says is, you could throw my entire world into an upheaval and I would love you. You could keep secrets, run a revolution, frustrate the shit out of me, ruin me. I still love you.
Yeah. Isn't this what we've been arguing about the whole time, guys?
Man, like, what do you mean? It's just, I don't want nothing in my world works without you. Like, okay, so just so I understand this, you said this doesn't work if you lie to me. No more secrets. And he said, okay, I agree. Then he said, actually, I'm going to keep secrets. And you said, I love you even if you keep secrets. I can't go anywhere. Is that what? That's what I broke that down.
I mean, for sure. We're definitely digging into it too much.
Right. I'm doing it fucking around, kind of. But like,
I think that ultimately where I'm taking this is Violet is basically coming to realize, okay, I have to be okay with a certain level of, you know, information being withheld. But I'm realizing that even after all of these events have happened, I still love him, you know, for better or for worse.
Right.
So I'm just going to have to get over it.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm joking around, but it is kind of funny.
It is. Yeah.
But yeah, like you get it. The dude can read intentions. He's in a higher position than Violet is. Violet, if you want to go in like the military sense, is a cadet and he's a lieutenant. Like, he's not a student. There could be potential things that he's supposed to keep. Again, I don't agree with that. I told Jackie everything.
Yeah.
Just heads up, don't come get me now. The statute of limitations is over. I
don't think that you told me everything.
I didn't tell you everything.
No.
But I don't really know if I told you much. I'm thinking like that, you know, like the OPSEC stuff. Like, there was nothing. I never told you really anything like that.
No, I mean, well, I also didn't ask. Like,
all right. Well, yeah, who cares?
But you know,
like, really,
I will say what it made me think of though is that you mentioned, oh, he can read intentions. Absolutely, if you could read intentions, I would need you to tell me everything that people are thinking. Like, I would need you to tell me all.
I would not be able to help but tell you everything everyone's hoping.
Like, I would need to know all.
I'd be like, oh, shit. Jack, let me tell you something.
Guess what that bitch over there is thinking.
Like, these motherfuckers should never invite us to parties again.
And you could do it mind to mind. Oh, my God. We would be the worst people to be around.
But this is why I know that I'm immature, though, is because I would gamble so much money. Like, hey, man, I guarantee you I can guess a number I'm gonna take your money.
Yeah.
I'm winning money.
Yeah,
I'd be a sleazeball.
You could do a lot of nefarious things with that.
Yeah, I'd be found dead in an alley in like a year and a half.
Well, Violet also asks Xaden about his mom, because this is like their whole like full disclosure thing. So she asks him about their mom. He says that his parents' marriage contract required her to have an heir survive until the age of 10, and then she was free to go, which apparently she did. And he hasn't seen or heard from her since.
Yep.
There's a lot to unpack with this. First, why has Violet never asked about her before? Like, that seems like a pretty early on type of question to ask about people's parents.
Yeah, that is odd. Especially because his dad was such an influential or like famous.
Well, the whole like basically beef between Violet and Xaden was because of their parents.
Right. So like it would be natural to think like, well, was your mom also executed? Like I've never heard of, like what's the deal?
And maybe she just assumed that, and therefore that's why she had never asked. But again, you would assume that at some point they would have had conversations about his family and background.
We're doing a whole lot of assuming.
We are.
Making asses.
Well, the other part of this was the fact that there was a marriage contract. So that makes me think that maybe she was from somewhere like the Isle Kingdoms, and it was an alliance situation, or potentially even somewhere in Pormeal, because obviously him with the revolution, would have needed to make allies, and that would be a good reasoning to do that.
Yeah, I was thinking the Isles, just because I think now everything
is
that's mysterious is leading to that.
Yeah.
But
there's also could be places that we've never heard of before.
That's true. It's just a continent.
Mm-hmm.
What planet are they on? Is there a planet? Yeah, I don't know. We don't know the answers to all these questions.
Well, the last part about it was this whole surviving until age 10 thing. Mm-hmm. Like, why? Like, what about 10 was like the magic number? And why are we thinking that the kid might not survive until 10?
I was just figuring that maybe you could serve at the age of 10, like...
In what capacity?
As if something happened to the king or the whatever that he was.
Oh, like...
The heir has to be...
He's not a king. He was, I guess, a duke.
A duke or whatever. His heir has to be old enough to actually...
To be... Okay, that's a good point.
So that was my thought.
Yeah.
You have to wait until
like
my
10.
heir is old enough to actually be able to...
That's a good point.
I don't know. That's just my thought. Yeah. So Xaden tells her about how his signet manifested, and he, again, just want to throw it out there, he promises not to use it on her again, which, again, I'm not hating on Xaden. I would hate for it to be taken that way. What I'm saying is you can't help it. So you can't be like, I promise not to use it. If her shields are down,
unintentional,
then you're going to see it.
Yeah.
If she's not shielded, you're going to see it.
At this point, I wonder if we should have in our Onyx Storm coverage, like a watch for when we know he's doing it, even though he said he wasn't going to.
Oh, that's fun. I like that. Okay.
But the other part of this conversation that I was curious about was it said that the writer of record was thought to be his great uncle instead of his grandfather. And that's why, he was kind of able to fly under the radar with leadership, not knowing he had a second signet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering why that is. Was that just a mistake, or was there something intentional about that where his grandfather's identity was changed or hidden or for whatever reason when he went into the quadrant?
Yeah, I agree. There's something to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know either. I feel like, something that was done on purpose, and we'll find out at some point.
Yeah.
Why that was done or when or whoever did it. My thought is maybe it was Xaden's father has had some sort of influence on that change. You know what I mean? Knowing what was going to come, trying to protect his son, but also like...
Yeah, and that's what I couldn't figure out if
did Sigale have a part in this? Of like communicating prior to the other dragon and like lining this up? Like I think it was done on purpose, and I think it was Sigale and I think it was Xaden's dad somehow involved.
Yeah, but Xaden's dad wasn't a writer.
I think he was involved, though.
Yeah. I don't know. And that's the thing. Like, when was that record changed? Was it changed, like, back when his grandfather went through the quadrant?
Oh, I didn't think that. I thought this was after the fact.
Or was it later after the fact?
Yeah. But if it was after the fact, if he was anybody of note, of importance, like the Duke of Aracia, who he would have also been, right?
In theory, right.
And he had gone through the quadrant as that, and I feel like people would have known. It would have just like people wouldn't have forgotten that. They'd be like, "What that dragon was?
Yeah.
That was your granddad's dragon."
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was the Duke of Eurasia. Yeah.
it would be remembered. So
Mhm.
it maybe you're right. It had to have been done before he went. He must have gone through Basgiath under a false identity.
Mm-hmm. That's what it makes it seem. That's where I was going with
Yeah.
it.
Okay. That makes total sense. Yep.
Mhm.
Man, I fucking love breaking this shit down. I love this shit. All right, then. So we end up jumping to December 19th, which is 2 days before solstice.
Mhm.
And at this point, the assembly's still refusing to join Navarre to fight in Samara, which, I mean, even I'm like, man, that's tough. It is tough. The right thing to do is fight in Samara. Obviously, you know, the civilians who can't protect themselves. But, man, like I said, when somebody's been killing you, lying to you, torture, like,
Yeah.
easier said than done, I'm sure.
And I can definitely understand to a degree how that could be kind of like justified because, again, Samara is just a random outpost when it really comes down to it. The people who are in Samara are military, and their thought process, which we're going to break down a little bit later, is it would not affect the wards as much as you might think that it would.
Yeah, it's a horrible thing to basically say you're sacrificing an outpost.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, that is what they're doing.
Right.
And they know that's what they're doing because they know that their ward stone works and that Basgiath is still protected in a very large part. You know what I mean? So it is an odd thing. But anyway, it's an 8-hour flight away. So you're 2 days away from this and you got to fly 8 hours to get there. So, you know, time's kind of ticking. But we end up finding out that, and I didn't understand this either. Jasenia is transcribing the journal as was the plan. But Violet says it only took one frustrating day trying to translate and failing before I handed it over to Jasenia.
Mm-hmm.
She already said Jasenia would have to do it because she didn't know the language. So why did she waste a day when they don't have much time?
Yeah, I agree with that. But you know, because if she doesn't speak the language, then how are you even attempting to translate at that point? You're using like a translation dictionary or something.
Right. I thought that was odd. I was like,
yeah.
what are you doing?
Seems like for sure time is of the essence.
Yeah. And you know, again, she's super intelligent, but you don't know the language. So I don't know where you're going there.
Yeah. I also caught another kind of confusing thing about the imbuing, because remember last week we were talking about the imbuing and it only comes naturally to a handful of signets or whatever.
Yeah.
But now it says that all the other cadets now have these conduits where they are practicing or working on imbuing the alloy that they're going to use in the arrowheads.
Well, I think they said it could be taught.
And must have been.
So I guess that's what the plan is. They're just trying to teach here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But Violet mentions that Kat is like the best rune weaver or whatever of their class, and that she's the only one who has mastered a tracking rune, which you're like, okay, so you can track people, but it's not. It's that tracks somebody else's rune.
Right.
Which is a pretty sick thing to master.
I didn't think about this in the moment, but I'm wondering, will this mean that she potentially has the ability to track the wyvern because they're created with runes?
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that. I was just thinking about like when a couple chapters ahead when they show up as Basgiath, right? And then they have all the runes that Jack has placed everywhere, and leading up to the hatching grounds, she can now track them.
Right.
Because someone else has made them.
That's probably the case. That's probably why they introduced this.
But if wyvern are made from these runes, which they are, there is potential that she can track the wyvern.
Yeah.
And she probably knows it, and she ain't gonna say shit.
Oh, because she a venom.
Because she a venom ass bitch. So we also do a jump forward 2 weeks since the meeting with Melgren, right? Like, and we're still 2 days prior to Samara, but the amount of time that has passed since the Melgren meeting is 2 weeks. And it's 1 week of no new deaths, no attacks, anything, which, you know, it's pretty common sense. You know what's going on, but Devera shows the cadets a map, and the Venin are just settling across from Samara, just like Melgren said that they would. So they're just...
Which is sneaky.
Yeah, they're just setting up camp, just waiting.
Sneaky.
Just waiting.
Knowing that that's not even where they're attacking.
Yep. And they've left everywhere in the south and the Tirish border, right? So you're thinking like this is a full-on invasion.
Yeah.
Like they've brought everybody. So I was thinking like, oh, we must have like billions or something. Yeah, I'm like, how big is this thing? Not billions, but millions. Who knows? And that was because that she says that they're still in the provinces of, and I can't even say these words. Signesen and Breivik.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But they haven't left Zolia. So we know.
Which is where the academy was.
Right. And that's what Marion says, they don't know our wards aren't working at full strength. Mm-hmm. And that's why they haven't left there. But they're in 2 provinces. So I think
she means they obviously don't know the wards in Eurasia aren't operating at full strength.
Eurasia. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yep. Mm-hmm. So my thought here, right, is this is a large group. Right? You're in 2 provinces, plus you still got your base camp set up here. We find out in a minute, though, that there's only 500 wyvern. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I mean, it's a lot, but
I definitely expected more.
But 2 provinces, and you're looking at this map of how big how many hour flights away things are.
Yeah.
It's a lot of mass. I was just expecting a much larger number. Mm-hmm. And there's, so anyway, Brennan says they're preparing for the battle that Melgren saw, which is what it appears to be on the map.
Mm-hmm. And then someone asks why they're not engaging, and Quinn speaks up, and she says, because we're spiteful. Mm-hmm. Brennan tells them their reasoning, basically, that the losses would be too great. He insists the wards should protect them because, so this is what I wanted to kind of break down, is that, so the wards, the main wards in Navarre are centered at Bezgaev. The wardstone in Bezgaev is the center of those wards.
It's pulsing out from there.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm picturing this circle. And then the outposts have the alloy that's able to pull them farther.
Yep.
So they're basically saying that Samara is one of these outposts that's kind of on the outskirts. And if that were to fall, the wards would kind of just slide back a little bit. And so there would be
almost like a V in that circle.
Yeah.
Is what I picture.
Well, what you were just doing with your hand was
my
more
fault.
of a U.
Yeah, I'm more of a U guy. Yeah, that's more of a U. Okay.
But
that's an interesting move to make with my hand. If you haven't done that, just go ahead and try that real quick. Make a U with your hand, with your palm being the outside.
But then it's just a small area that's now unprotected, which would probably include civilians.
Right, yeah.
But would not affect the hatching grounds at Bezgaev because the wardstone is still in place. So that is Brennan's, like you were saying, his whole thing is that we're agreeing that we are sacrificing this one outpost, but we're not sacrificing the bigger problem, which would be the hatching grounds.
And to his point, Melgren knows this.
Yeah.
They know that. They know they don't actually, this isn't the end.
Yeah. That being said, though, if you're taking out all of these Navarrian forces at Samara, if all of them are taken out, well, that is still leaving the rest, fairly unprotected other than the wards.
So, and my first thought was, abandon Samara and push back, it's the alloy. Remove the alloy from Samara and push back. Mm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because and I'm not saying you should willingly give up territory or space if you're battling, but if you are, know that you're going to be overrun, you cannot win this battle. You are going to lose, and everybody here is going to die. Or you pull the alloy, you take it with you, and you back a little bit into the wards. You have given them a little bit of space that they can do nothing with.
Yeah. If you also get out all of the villages and
you got to push everybody back.
Yeah, but that would also require them to tell people.
They why? Tell people. And okay, so you're right.
And they're not going to want to do that.
And that's the problem. Yeah. People are going to die in this battle, which again, and it's because the Venom know, right? Because they got a man on the inside. But again,
true.
If you're the military thinking here, and you don't know that, this is Melgren trying to set the rebellion up, is what it is. And everybody should, I think, understand that in that classroom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true. And I feel like that's kind of what he was trying to imply. That's the point Brennan was trying to get across.
Yep, it worked. So Violet ends up, as he's speaking, really, figures out that Samara is just a distraction, right? During battle brief. And so instead of yelling that at all these people who are a part of this group, who are part of this fight, she says nothing and grabs her bags quietly and leaves.
She's got to go tell Xaden.
Right? And I was like, man, that's a dick move, dude, and she just walked out and she's like, mind to mind with Xaden, I need to talk to you now,
I mean, I do understand that to a certain degree because even though she does feel pretty confident that she has figured this out, to shout it out to a whole room full of people is still you got to be real certain.
Yeah.
Whereas chatting with Xaden being what are your thoughts here? Am I on the right track?
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, she
Right.
doesn't really give him any explanation for why she thinks that.
No, that's true. I don't know. I just thought maybe there'd be more of a information sharing than
There was eventually.
Yeah. So luckily some other people walked out, Rhiannon and Sloan and a couple others, but
Her whole squad, basically.
yeah. Yeah. But Violet tells Xaden that, hey, Basgaiath is a real target. And they basically spend a minute talking about the morality of helping versus not helping. And
it seems like it truly was everybody looking to Violet to make that decision.
Right.
It was like Xaden's like, what do you want to do? And everyone else was kind of just, she said that they even like quieted down to listen to what she's going to say and what decision she's going to make.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Violet is a leader, whether she, sees that or not. I don't think she does yet, but she's an obvious leader. So, and this is this is pointing to her being
to be the one to make that decision.
Yeah, I'll be honest, me too.
Please don't look to me to make a decision about whether we're all going to go fight to the death.
Right. Like, we got to become a democracy. Okay. We're going to have to all talk about this shit.
we're
going to have to take a vote. Yeah, we're going to have to vote on this. So, all right then. Well, chapter 59.
Mm-hmm. So this is one of those chapters, I feel like, that definitely starts off one way and ends in a total other. And this whole set of chapters has been like that. But those who are willing to fight for Basgaiath are mounting up to head out on the 18-hour flight. Notably not among them is Brennan, who is still very adamant that he will not be joining this fight, and neither will the rest of the assembly. A riot of 50 heads towards Basgaiath, and when they get there, they find that it's a little empty. Violet's job is to convince her mom that Violet's hunch is correct, and while her mom is skeptical, they do get her to agree to check on the wards. What they find when they do had all of us readers' jaws dropping on the floor. Not only are the guards dead, but guess who is in the ward chamber with their orange friggin' dragon? Fucking Jack Barlow. He kills his own dragon and takes down the wards in one fell swoop.
That's the best summary you've ever had.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. It was so good. Yep. I think the friggin' got me.
Yeah.
Because you don't say friggin' very often. That was pretty funny. Oh, me. So, the note at the top is one of my favorites out of all of them, like the memos. And it's Taryn's, I guess, personal addendum to the Book of Brennan, as quoted by Violet. And that is, we do not eat our allies. And I love that quote.
And I'm curious as to why that was included in this particular chapter. It didn't necessarily seem super related, but definitely comes up here soon because while Andarna does not eat her allies, she does eat venom.
She does. And that shit is awesome. I can't wait for it. So Andarna also has to ride in a harness, right? It's an 18-hour flight and she can only fly an hour or two still for her like muscles cramp up or whatnot. So she's got a little attitude about it. She's not very happy. She talks a little bit of shit. And she says dragons do not answer to humans. And Taryn says no, but they do answer to their elders. And then she says only to the eldest in our den. And I was like, ooh, she says our, like she's a black dragon. So that's my first thought.
See, mine was like, she was saying like only to the eldest of our den. And she knows that person is her.
Well, she does. She does. But I don't know. The whole thing, I don't know. It was just like an important scene. And I couldn't piece it all together. But, she's like, I don't know, maybe like 2 paragraphs later, she says, perhaps I'll be the eldest of my own den.
Yeah. And I feel like Andarna, like, obviously knows everything already here. And is just being like, I'm going to drop these little tidbits. Maybe I'll be the eldest of my own den. Like, maybe I'm being coy.
I think it's funny. And I think that she found something out, again, when she was at the Vale. But anyway, Violet sees Andarna tracking birds in the sky. And she's talking about looking at her until her eyes like start hurting because she's looking at the sun or whatever. And she says that her scales look a shiny sky blue before I blink the spots away.
Because she's looking at the sky.
Yep, she's looking at the sky. And now we have her looking like a blue dragon, right? Like we've had the green.
Camouflaged into the sky.
Right, I know, but like she's definitely camouflaged with her surroundings. Like 100% I agree with that. But I felt like it was being presented to you in colors of dragons. That's just, like she was just mixed in with Taryn's, a black dragon. She's looking here, she's a blue dragon. She was with the grass, she looks like a green dragon. Yeah. I feel like
but then we have snow and then we have rock.
Right. So I think it's presented to you in the way of colors of dragons. But obviously we know.
throw you off.
We know that it's camouflaged with whatever her surroundings are. She's a chameleon.
Okay. Well, Taryn tells her that she's going to be waiting a while, if she wants to be the eldest of her own den, because he's only in his middling years, which definitely implies that Taryn thinks that she's a black dragon and is a member of his den.
Correct. Yep.
But then sick burn from Andarna, because she says, I figured you were decades into your elder era because of how you act.
Which is very funny. That is very, very funny. Yeah, Andarna is the best.
She is.
I love Taryn. I love Taryn's character. And going to be bummed, but Taryn is going to die.
Don't say it.
It is. I hope that when it does happen, which I don't want it to, I'm torn. Do I want it to just go ahead and happen?
No.
But hear me out. Do I want it to just go ahead and happen, rip the Band-Aid off?
No.
Boom. And I don't think it's going to be an early on book 3 thing, because this is going to be catastrophic. But it could be end of Onyx Storm type of deal. Rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with.
No.
Or do we want to continue to love Taryn, connect more with Taryn, enjoy Taryn's character, and then all of a sudden towards the end, you're just heartbroken?
Yes.
Okay, so you're picking heartbroken over rip the Band-Aid off.
Because I'm going to be heartbroken now. I would rather have more time with Taryn. Yes.
Okay.
And again, that's assuming that that's the inevitability.
It's happening.
I don't know.
I don't want it to. I don't want it to.
I definitely think it's a possibility. But I don't know.
I know. I don't want it to happen either. I'm scared of Rebecca Yarros.
Yeah, well, definitely it seems like we have a reason to be.
Yeah, I'm scared of her. So anyway, Meryn ends up giving Violet a small crossbow with some of the Marasite arrowheads that are also imbued and runed to explode on impact. And says, do not drop this. But it's like, with the periods in between, do not drop this.
Because it'll explode.
It'll explode. And I was like, man, they were not fucking around. That crossbow's bad as a bitch.
Well, and it's fair. She, gives Violet this because Violet is not accurate yet. So she very well may need a second weapon.
100%. Makes sense. So we find out that, and this is from Brennan, that the assembly thinks it's a mistake to go and they're not going to change their mind, right? So the assembly has made the decision that they're not going to Samara, they're not going to help. And Brennan agrees with that and says that, they're just going to go get cadets killed. Basically, Violet and Xaden are like, we're going. And he's like, y'all are just going to get yourselves killed, other cadets killed. And they're like, no, we're going to fight them anyway. Fuck you. We don't care about you or the assembly. And they say that first years, they're not going to allow the first years to go. So it's only going to be second and third years leaving, plus Mira and Xaden, who will join her squad.
Yeah, because I guess Rhiannon steps up and tells Xaden that he can come with them, but their squad's going to stay intact. And then Violet kind of chips in and tells Mira the same thing, that she's going to stay with her squad.
Which is cool.
Violet also asks Brennan if he's okay with not going, knowing that there's every chance their mom will die.
Yeah.
Which, spoiler alert, she does.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. That is tough. And his reasoning is understandable. He's like, she has no problem sending us to our death.
Right. And that is absolutely fair.
Yep. So, I don't know. It's tough. That's a tough call. I can see the darker side of that choice also. So, I don't know. Either way, Taryn and Sigale end up leading a riot of what becomes 50 dragons and riders to Basgiath.
Which, when you say that the 500 doesn't seem like a lot, it does when it's up against 50.
It does. Yeah, 100%. That ain't no doubt. But, you also have other forces. There's
not
more.
Much.
Well, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about Navarre.
Yeah.
There are other forces.
But they are not going to get there in time.
Nope. I'm just saying, if you really wanted to clean this up, right? This is second and third years, and then they said they pick up some active riders on the way. There's no first years, right? But you could have brought them if you wanted, and they might not be anything. And if they don't have signets, then you're right. They're not any help.
Well, and
but
I wonder
dragons are.
How much of the adult, I say adult, they're all adults, but how much of the veteran riders that are in Erasure stayed? Because obviously we know all the assembly stayed.
Yep.
So I wonder how many, and eventually those people, well, at least Brennan, I don't know about the rest of the assembly, come. So I wonder how many of them that added.
Right. So, like I said, you got 50 that just came. You left however many. You left more than that at Erasure. All the first years are in Erasure. All the flyers are in Erasure, right? You pick up a few active and you got 50 with you. You're going to Basgiath, which has 119, I think is what Lilith says later, cadets that are there.
Yeah.
All right. So,
but not all of them have signets,
but the signets isn't what we need. What we need is dragons. So we don't
to a degree.
Signets help.
Yeah,
for sure, ain't no doubt. But the dragon is the one who who allows you to open up your signet. He's the one that allows you, and she's the one that allows you to have that power.
Well, and the dragons can directly fight Wyvern themselves, like without the rider's help, essentially.
So you have dragons who can fight, right? And now the dragons, all they have to do is say, okay, I know you might not be ready, but I have to allow this. And they allow their rider to open their signet. Yeah. And yes,
but most of these people's signets can't defeat
might not be shit.
Wyvern or Venom. Like really, Violet's signet is the only one that can actually kill them directly.
But what determines a rider's signet?
Need.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, so you think these people's signets? Oh, you're going way too in.
Huh? Hear me? What? Boom. Mic drop. Yeah, that's right. I just fucking solved the problem. I solved the fucking problem.
So all of these cadets that do not have signets yet should go into this battle in the hopes that they will manifest a signet that can defeat the Venom, knowing that Violet's signet is the only signet really ever in the history of the whole continent has ever been able to kill Venom directly.
Listen, you say that, but does Xaden take out a few Venom?
With a dagger, not with the shadows.
Hey, you know what? I don't know how to do shit for a signet, but give me a fucking dagger. I know how to throw a bitch. You know what I'm saying? I can fucking chuck a dagger.
Oh, man.
You know,
now
I'm just saying.
You could take out the Venom.
Give me a dagger.
Single-handedly.
Give me two. Give me two. Don't give me two. All right. I only need one.
Oh, man. Your confidence is amazing.
I'm just saying, that's the thing. The dragons allow the signet to manifest. It's not the rider, it's the dragons. So we need the dragons buy-in here. Like the cadets, like, oh, they're only cadets. I don't give a fuck.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The dragons will be like, here, bitch, you're an air wielder. Like, knock the Venom off his fucking wyvern to the ground or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I definitely understand the concept of the cadets not knowing what they're doing, but I think that would just be a situation where their dragons have to be in charge. Like, their dragons, in theory, are battle-tested and have experience and are older. Yes. You know, the dragons don't necessarily have anything to do with the fact that the rider is new.
And we're going to get into this.
Than not being able to keep your seat.
Right. Now, remember the whole, I got, not friends in low places. I mean, I do. But I got a theory. Mm-hmm. We're not ready for it yet. But
I just think it's funny how many people would not understand that reference that you just made.
For real?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've got listeners from all over the world. They have definitely not heard some random country song from like the 90s.
It's Garth Brooks.
I hear ya. I know exactly what you were referring to.
Oh my goodness gracious, y'all. Okay. Either way, we're not ready for that theory yet. Mm-hmm. But keep this moment in mind also. The dragons could solve this.
Okay.
All right. We're not talking about do they feel that cadets are ready. We're talking about the end of humanity and dragonkind together.
Okay.
So when that happens, even little kitties get a fucking spear. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Sorry.
I agree with
everybody goes now. We don't want you. You're the last line. You're the very last. Yeah. You're in boats in the water, floating away to an island, hopefully.
Well, and
but you got a spear on you just in case.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what they do. They say that like the first years are packed and ready to go if they fall.
Right, and that's what you got to do. But everybody else is there to fight. So I think the dragons are fucking up. Anyway, that's going to play into my theory. Remember this. Why aren't all the dragons helping? Think about it. All right.
I'm listening.
All right, so apparently what the plan was going to Basgaiath was no plan. So leadership devises a plan mid-flight.
And I wonder who they're talking about. Like, who is it that's devising this plan? Because who is the leadership other than Xaden and Violet?
Well, they pick up riders along the way, active riders.
Yeah.
So not all of those, Mira is a captain now, but I think that's a captain on the rebellion side. In Erasia, not... She was still a lieutenant here. Xaden was a brand new lieutenant.
Yeah.
They picked up active riders. That could be captains. That could be people with more seniority.
Okay. That makes sense. So they're grabbing these random new people, telling them what's going on, and then those people are making the plan.
I don't know. I think the dragons are communicating to other dragons.
So maybe it's the dragon hierarchy. So it's the dragon leadership. That makes more sense. Yeah. Because it could be like a brand new, or a cadet's dragon, like Violet's dragon,
right? But
is
Karen's
a leadership.
Choices,
yeah.
Right. So I think, okay, we just worked that out.
Dragon leadership.
Dragon leadership. I love that. Okay.
Mhm.
So Taryn, who is in leadership, tells Andarna to fly to the Vale and stay there. And she says, what if you need me, like last time? I can stay hidden right at your side.
Yeah, which she can probably camouflage against him too if she needed to.
Yep. But I was like, that's in the context of they're both black dragons, but I think that she means it in
like true camouflage.
What we think she means.
Mm-hmm.
So she ends up detaching, and Violet says, the Vale, like go to the Vale. And she says, I will be where I'm needed. And Violet basically says that she didn't sound like she listened, which she
luckily
right.
She doesn't, because she saves her.
Yep. And like, Andarna knows, I don't know how much she knows. So she's like, I'll be where I'm needed. Like, and she is always where she's needed. She's anytime, like Andarna, which, I don't know if we got to this. It's probably a long time ago, but when Andarna basically was like, yeah, that's why I chose you at Threshing or whatever, like I was saving you.
No, we find that out in the next set of chapters.
Oh, okay.
At the end, when she like realizes like who Andarna is.
Yeah, she's like, I'll always be where you need me. Like that's the whole thing. Like, yeah, interesting. Man, love it. Andarna's the best. And the Empyrean also, when we're talking about leadership of the dragons during this flight, because once they get towards Basgaiath, Taryn says that the Empyrean is displeased that they're there.
Which I wonder why. Like, why is that? Other than, they've left, so the dragons that stayed are apparently the ones who want to keep the venom secret, so they're just pissed at these other dragons in general.
I think so.
But I think we're here to protect your hatching grounds.
Yeah, we
got our own now. We're coming to help you.
And that is the thing. Like, I don't know if they've communicated that. Like, hey, we got our wardstone, like, coming along.
Kind of functioning.
We're going to get there, okay? We got it coming along, but we got hatching grounds now. Like, we're going to be just fine.
Well, one of those dragons in resonance, and again, I'm going to attempt to pronounce this, Greem.
Okay, yeah, I like it.
Greem.
Yeah, E-I-M. That's a good one. M? Grim,
maybe. Well, whoever that is reaching out to her mate at Samara to tell Coda what's going on. Because, again, they're at Samara thinking that the attack is going to be there, and they need to communicate that it's not, so that they can hopefully get those people to come back. Mm-hmm. And Violet asks Taryn when he and Sagea will be able to cover distances like that, and he says years. And I feel like this is definitely going to come up again, but kind of going back to the whole, like, what's going to happen to Taryn eventually. I feel like it's going to be, like, in some really tragic way.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be able to communicate that way for the first and last time.
Yeah.
When something bad is happening.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Keep it moving.
I know, it's sad. So Lilith, by the way, once they get to Basgaiath, which in the plan, like we can go over it, but basically the plan was Violet, go get your mama. Mm-hmm. And that was the plan. So they'd land, basically boom, 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 dragons land real quick and take off in quick succession type. Mm-hmm. And Lilith walks out and tries to act like everything's cool and like, it's Mira and Violet and Xaden, I think, are the three that are there. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I'll allow you to live. Like, that's like their reward. Like, she's trying to act all hardcore and shit.
Which she also says to Violet that the biggest threat to their wards would be her. Like, meaning Violet. She says the biggest threat to our wards would be you. And you was in italics. Why is Violet the biggest threat to their wards?
Because she's venom.
Like, I definitely was surprised that you didn't say anything about that, because I kind of cocked my head with that one. Like, what? Why is she? And of course, the Venom is the one that says that Violet's going to take down the wards.
Yeah. For love.
It's
all true. That's why we waking up where we waking up. Ooh. All right. Where we waking up in Onyx Storm. Probably where we left off in Iron Flame. In the bed in Basgaiath.
We'll sing.
Well, Mira points out after this, kind of like an empty threat from Lilith, like, I'll let you live, that they only have five guards, 5 riders there. Mm-hmm. And they're all Mindwork Signet riders. Yeah. So there's really no way to defend Basgaiath. And
and Mira gives her an ultimatum. She says, basically, we can be here to conquer these few people that you have, right, or we can be here to help you defend. Yep.
And Lilith pretty much gives in quick, right? And she makes a comment that, black does suit you to Violet. And, I think acknowledging that right, she was proud of her.
She realizes that she's got her backbone now and it's a mess.
So they end up, basically what they want to do with Lilith is go inspect the wards. And that's what they're demanding to do. We think something's going to happen. we want to go inspect the wards right now.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, fine, let's go do it. And they're, cricking on along.
Right.
Garrick's dragon's worried about runes because he's sensitive to them, and he's the one that found him in Reston.
Yeah, which is, I definitely have been really on board with the concept of Garrick's signet being distance wielder. But, doing this reread and this part coming back, I feel like his signet has to have something to do with the runes. But maybe that's just his dragon. Like, it's his dragon that's sensitive to him, and the signet's based on the rider, not the dragon.
But Garrick has a signet, and it's never mentioned.
Yeah.
Ever.
But I wonder if these are supposed to be like clues, or if this is completely unrelated to his signet.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And maybe it is. I mean, are we 100% sure it's never mentioned? Was there like a drop in like chapter
of Garrick's signet?
Of 3
no,
of
we don't
Fourth
know
Wing?
What Garrick's signet is.
Like we never, like it's not just some early on.
Like Rebecca Yarros did one of the panel, like the live events, and somebody asked like, who would you want to be on a deserted island with?
Yeah.
And she said Garrick, and then she kind of laughed and she's like, you guys don't even know why that is because you don't know what a signet is.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
And that's another clue to me that he's possibly a distance wielder because he would have had a need to be a distance wielder in the beginning when they were smuggling weapons.
Yeah.
And it seems like he's always the one that goes out on those missions to do the weapons drops.
Right.
Because he can do it faster.
Interesting, man.
But yeah, then we got all this stuff with runes. So who knows? What do I know? This is going to be one of those things where it's going to come back and be like, Garrick's absolutely not a distance wielder. And I was dumb.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not, but I don't think you're dumb. I think you're very smart, and you sold me on that, so I'm a believer now. So, yeah, and you would think when you have a dragon being like, something's off, I'm worried, blah, blah, that we would listen more. But Violet said, he's just sensing the same energy, here, but that's because Basgaiath is built on runes. Like, don't worry about it. He's being extra. And you're like,
maybe
okay.
There's something to it.
Yeah, maybe his dragon fucking knows what he's talking about. So they end up coming to this end of the stairwell, and there's nothing there but an empty circle room. It's like some pavers or some shit, some stone around, no big deal. And Violet's like, it's empty. There's nothing here. And then Dane's bitch ass knows what stone to push.
Well, and he says, and they say in general, that the reason Dane is there with them is because he knows where the wards are. And I really didn't pay that much attention to this, but definitely looking back on it, that seems sketchy.
Why?
That Colonel Ados is showing Dane how to get to the wardstone.
Right. Why?
That's sketchy.
Colonel Atos is on my venom
yeah.
list. He's on there's like 4 people on my known venom list.
Yeah.
And Colonel Atos is one of them.
Is definitely, yeah.
And Dane's on my venom list, but I can't prove it yet until we about to find out some shit. Shit's about to go down.
Well,
I got so much shit's going to go down.
Then there's supposed to be guards at the end, but they dead.
They did. They gone.
So they get to the ward chamber. And there's a dragon in there.
Oh, shit. Motherfucker.
And it's an orange scorpion tail.
Oh, motherfucker.
And who do we know is an orange scorpion tail?
That motherfucker.
Bade.
God damn it. Who's Bade's rider?
Jack motherfucking Barlow.
Fucking Jack.
And she says that the wardstone is twice as large as the one in Eratia. And I didn't really picture the true size of it until she says at one point Bade disappears behind it.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's a massive
A whole
wardstone.
dragon can disappear behind this stone.
Yeah, that's more than I was expecting also.
Yeah, I was not picturing the size big enough for a dragon to disappear completely behind it.
No.
Well, she also says that Bade's eyes are opaque instead of golden. Don't know exactly what that means.
I do, but keep going.
Sure. And when Jack sees Violet, he says that she's right on time.
Right on time, like he knew. Now, a couple times I've been like, keep that thought.
Okay.
Bade's eyes are opaque instead of golden. Keep that thought.
I'm keeping it.
Okay.
We got a lot of things we got to keep in our brains today, guys. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
So Bade goes to immediately breathe fire on him, and Riddick comes to save the day and puts up a wall of ice. So that was pretty impressive. Like, where did that water come from? He had to
I bet that hurt.
Pulled it.
Yeah. He says he had burned and bloody hands, which he gets mended later, and it's like no big deal. But I bet in the moment that hurt like a motherfucker.
But again, also another situation where, okay, well, now your signet's a little bit cooler because, before being able to make icicles.
Yeah, we were kind of fucking around like, all right, cool. You really good at snowball fights. Like, I get it. But Yeah, it's kind of like the air wielder thing we're talking about, like sucking the air out of the lungs.
lungs.
Like, okay, that's more.
Like we could see how some of these signets are actually useful.
Like that, he just countered a fucking dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
That's
it hurt
big,
him,
yeah.
but he just countered a dragon fire. That's
at least in the moment.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
So then we get this ending scene where Bade has her front claws up on the ward stone, and Jack plunges his sword into Bade's neck, which she seemingly just allows to happen. She doesn't fight back. And then the blood extinguishes the wardstone flame, and the wards have now fallen.
I'll tell you what.
Because it falls.
Now, you might say, is that all that happened? And I'll say, there's more to that story. Wait till we get to questions and theories.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot about that.
Yes. So don't think we're just going to gloss over it.
No, and Justin definitely tried to have that conversation. And he was like really into it after reading that, because we read these last few chapters kind of together. And I was like,
well, we read separately, but we sat at a table outside and read it together.
Yeah. And I was like, no, you gotta stop it, and we'll have this conversation on the pod.
I did. I almost ruined it, but again, we were sitting on. I just painted the scene for you. We were sitting on the back porch, and at our outdoor table thing, and Jack was reading, and I'm reading my book, and then I'm like putting my shit down, and I'm like, Jack, and I'm just trying, and she's like, you got to shut the fuck up, and I was like, you're right, I do.
Like,
so
you have a lot of good things to say, but
shut up.
Let's save it.
And I was like, yep, you're right, my bad. So more to come on that too. We're glossing over, but yeah, Jack plunges his sword in Bade's neck, kills Bade. Boom, words fallen. Done.
Jack Barlow, not me.
I said, oh, yeah, Jack Barlow. Yeah, not Jack. My fault. All right. So, chapter 60.
So, Violet is thinking that Jack only has minutes to live because he will obviously be following his dragon into death, right? No, because that bitch of Venom. They also learn that Nolan, who has definitely been here the whole time, we just keep forgetting about him, has known Jack is a Venom and has been working to mend his soul. Jack tries to channel from the ground, but Xaden wraps him up with some shadows, and they question him to figure out how in the hell he has managed all of this within the wards. Xaden is about to take him out, but Dane steps in to read Jack's memories so they can get as much information out of him as they can. Jack grabs onto Dane and leaves some nasty marks before Xaden knocks Jack out. Everyone is left reeling with the realization that they now have to fight this battle without the protection of the wards, and everyone is sent to get some rest before the battle starts. Xaden and Violet have something else in mind until they are interrupted with the arrival of some very welcome reinforcements.
Man, what a chapter.
Mm-hmm.
What a chapter. All right. So, at the very top, we're going to start with an excerpt from Magic, Universal Study for Writers by Colonel Ruthorn,
Sure.
Something like that. At its core, magic demands balance. Whatever you take will be recouped, and it is not the wielder who determines the price.
Mm-hmm. Look at you reading.
You like that? Thank you. This has more to do with dragons. And at first I wasn't sure what it meant, but then I started really thinking, because when you get to the end of this chapter, when Jack has this conversation, or not in this chapter, it's actually right here. Jack has this conversation with Nolan, when Nolan basically repeats this, like, magic demands balance.
Yeah.
And Jack says, does it?
Yeah.
And then he starts drawing power. Insane. So, Jack is a fucking Venom.
He is.
Venom ass bitch.
Mm-hmm.
He says,
I was shocked by this.
Me too.
I didn't see this coming.
I didn't either.
No.
I didn't either. Motherfucker.
And it's one of those moments where you're like, oh my God.
Yep. Motherfucker, man. So, Jack says, they have us thinking we're the inferior species. But you see how easily I controlled her? How easily the energy she bonded us with is replaced? And you're like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jack's a Venom. Like, he's a hardcore ass Venom.
And he's, referring to dragons. And it's, to me, another mention of potentially dragons not being the good guys.
Right.
Definitely Venom believe that the dragons are not good guys.
Correct. Yeah. They are trying to, before they just kill you, they're trying to get you to join their side, right? Like, come join us. Like, why do we have to let the dragon? And it seems like it's based off of people who, like the Venom said in her dream last episode, or like, they come for the power or whatever. Like, they intentionally go for people like Jack, who is jealousy. Like, they're jealous.
Right.
So, anyway, Xaden ends up reading Nolan's intentions, and that's how we really figure out kind of like exactly what was going on, which we knew, I think. But
yeah, you start to piece it together. Yeah. But this is definitely where you're like, okay, that's what the whole like Nolan mending the soul.
Right. Like, and we talked about it all through since Jack was basically crushed in the like slide of rocks or whatever, landslide, whatever you want to call it. But if you're reading it the first time, you might not know that. But either way, he says no one expected this, that he'd been trying to mend Jack since May.
Mm-hmm.
And
Xaden says that Jack managed to turn venom within the wards, which we definitely theorized about when Jack turned.
Mm-hmm.
But, this kind of points to it. It didn't happen before he got to Baskaya.
That's what it allows you to think, but Jack doesn't.
He never says.
He never gives you exactly.
No.
So he says there was no choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that if there was, I made mine the second I saw Violet bond the most powerful dragon. Why would they determine our potential when we can on our own? Mm-hmm. So he just says there was no choice. And if there was, I made mine. So that can be read both ways. Like there's no choice. I was always going to do this. Or there was no choice. Like I was already a venom. But if there was a choice, I still would have done it then. So
interesting.
He doesn't answer you exactly. But either way, Violet kind of realizes that for the first time ever in her life, she has thrown the wrong dagger.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, fucking Jack. Because you think he's dying.
She didn't know.
Right.
She didn't know that he was venom, so she didn't throw her alloy dagger.
It's like, because it makes it this whole time, the first time you're reading through, like, he's getting weaker. He's dropping, putting a hand on the ground. Like, oh, he's crumbling. Like, he's dying. But it's not the case. He's actually just getting prepared to draw fucking power. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what's happening. So Violet realized after she threw the wrong dagger, like, oh shit. Then Nolan that's when he says, magic requires balance and it doesn't give without a price. And then Jack says, does it? And he starts to draw from the ground.
Does it? Because I'm about to get it now.
Right. And you're like, oh shit, it's about to go down.
Well, then that's when Xaden suspends Jack up in the air so that he can't continue to draw from the ground and asks him how long he's been a venom. He, wants to get to the bottom of exactly when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack doesn't answer, but Violet kind of says she thinks it was at least before the challenge when he forced power into her, which I know we've talked about. We thought that maybe it was then that he became venom, but she says here she thinks it had to have been before that because he was able to force power into her in that interaction.
Maybe so. I can buy that.
Hmm.
I thought it was because that's when she saw his eyes being red. Because she made a comment when she first saw Jack, like, oh my gosh, how long has his eyes been red for?
Right.
Well, they haven't been red, except for when he forced that power into her.
Yeah.
So I thought she was like, oh, it had been from then because his eyes were red then. Mm-hmm. Well, his eyes had just turned red because he forced power. You know what I mean? Again, it's very vague.
Yeah. We still don't know exactly.
Right. So either way, Jack says the wards don't block out all the power like the dragons want you to think that they do. We can still feed from the ground, channel enough to survive, enough to fool them. So you're like, oh, fuck. Because you already have some dragons who don't want to bond, right? They don't. Now it's that you got humans, I guess is what they are, who can fool dragons and be venom. And now he's fucking killing his this is going to start a shit show between the dragons. Yeah, which is like the controlling of the dragon thing was definitely not something that we had seen before. Like, but we had heard Varish was potentially controlling Solus, but didn't have the opaque eyes. So I don't know. Like this opens up a whole nother can of worms. This is definitely one of those chapters where we get some answers to things and we get a whole lot more questions. Yeah, enough to fool them, enough to control them. We can do it. Mm-hmm. Just keep thinking about it. Either way, Jack says, when we're not at full strength under the wards, and we're not capable of wielding greater magic. So. Which leads you to think like they still have some strength and they can still wield a little bit, just maybe not their signet. Right. And again, they're just a little bit, enough to feed. Or like the major venom magic, like the being able to apparate and do all that crazy stuff. And then that's when he tells them, we're already among you and now we're free. Right. And so it's like a whole bunch of them. It's a whole lot of them, right? Justin's venom. I'm so fucking in on this shit. And then he also says, I'll never know why it's you he wants. You have no idea what's coming for you. Which I feel like she intentionally made this vague as to who he was talking to, because right before he said that, it says his glare was alternating between her and Xaden. Yeah. And he's not saying you guys. Right. He just says you but you don't know who he's talking to. Right. And I think she did that on purpose. Man, fuck. Well, then, this is the bad part. Taryn says, this changes everything. Yeah. And it's like... Because now Taryn's like,
We
who the
gotta
fuck
find
is
the
a
Venom.
Venom? Right? Like, we got Venom
Mm-hmm.
bonded to riders
Yeah.
and dragons, or bonded to dragons. Like, fuck,
Then
man.
they can potentially control those dragons.
Mm-hmm. So then Jack says, they're faster than you think they are. He's coming with a horde of greens. They all are.
Which, why greens? Yeah, I was interested in that.
Keep it in your mind.
Okay, because
Keep it in your mind.
do the different fire colors, because they're not saying that the wyvern is green. I assume he's referring to the fire color of the wyvern. And does that mean something? But then Jack also says that while they were smuggling weapons out, they, meaning the Venom, were smuggling them in. And it seems like he's referring to the runes, but could be more.
It could be. Yeah, and I don't know, but we're going.
You are so excited
I
for
am
your
so
theories.
fucking excited for this theory.
You are just like
pumped. I can't wait to get to it.
Sentence I say, you're just like grinning from ear to ear.
I love it. I am so pumped. And you might be like, "This is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard," and I'll be like, "Okay, but I got a theory." Okay, they're coming for you.
I can't
with a
wait.
horde of greens.
I am very excited.
Okay, so we have Xaden having Jack suspended, right? But then things are happening. Jack's getting down. Jack's getting ready to fuck some shit up.
Mm-hmm.
And Dane shows up and puts his hands on Jack's forehead and reads his memories.
Mm-hmm.
Then Jack grabs Dane's arm and he leaves gray handprints.
Yeah, because he's
drawing
power
whatever,
out
right.
of Dane.
So then
draining him.
Xaden ends up hitting Jack with the hilt of his dagger. And
he does, but he was definitely hesitating before he does that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Violet basically has to prompt Xaden to do it. And I'm like, was he trying to make sure that he got more than I don't think Dane was even still reading his memories by this point. So was Xaden hesitating because of their past, or does Xaden still not trust Dane? So he's like, I don't care if this guy dies. Like,
I wanted to know whose shields were up. Did they have shields up? Was this because Xaden was reading Dane's intentions and he's like, Dane is getting information. So he was allowing it to happen or trying to give it a second because he could read that Dane was reading.
I felt like
Jack.
all of them could see that that's why Dane went over there.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm saying the hesitation part was because
he could see that he was still actively getting information.
Like getting information that they needed, like beneficial information or whatever. So that's what I thought. And then the dagger being alloyed, the hilt I thought that was there just to like, hey, there was separation between his hand. Like he didn't touch Jack.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't know why it was pointed out, but that's how I took it. But either way, Lilith ends up being alive, right? She had gotten knocked out in the very beginning by Jack's dragon's tail, right? Like they like swiped her against some rocks and she bumped her head and she, whatever. It was a whole deal. You think maybe she's dead. So she's alive. And that's when you find out that at Basgiath they have 119 cadets, 10 leadership, and then the right that Violet brought, which is 50. So sizable, but a lot of cadets, a lot of no signets, not sizable enough to take on what's coming for them. And again, it doesn't have to be one-on-one with these wyvern. You take out a Venom, you might take out 30 wyvern. We don't know. It just says there's dark wield or something.
4 Venom can take out like a whole city.
Like a continent. Yeah. So I don't know.
Very easily.
Yeah. So we'll see. But either way, Dane says that the memories that he saw from Jack tell him that that's not going to be enough and that they have 10 hours, maybe, could be less, but that wyvern are faster than the dragons.
Which do we feel like we got all of the information from Dane?
Dane's on my Venom list, but
did Dane withhold some information here?
It doesn't seem like, because they don't really show up early. They show up on time.
Yeah.
With more than, I feel like Dane tells the truth. Now, does he withhold information? Yes, because he's a Venom and so is his dad. But in this aspect, I think Dane's trying to be good, right? Xaden said that he read his intentions in the moment. That's why he allowed him to live in the torture room, interrogation room. Is because he could see he had a true epiphany.
I don't know. That Xaden POV chapter just made me question Dane all over again. Made me suspicious of him.
Oh, I'm with you.
I was okay with his redemption arc and, was kind of like, all right, well, if Xaden trusts him, I'll trust him. But I don't trust him.
I don't trust that motherfucker. Not for a second. Well, this I thought was interesting. They get back, right? And Nolan says that he can't mend Dane. And it says, not sure if it's, Violet says this part, not sure if it's unmendable, like it's an unmendable wound, or if, because Nolan's so exhausted. And I'm thinking, and then she says, fucking Jack. And then like Rihanna's like, fucking Jack. They're all like, fucking Jack. And I'm like, fucking Dane. Like, Dane's a Venom. And if anything, you can point out the dad being a Venom, you can point out all the other things. But Jack put his hands on Dane, drew power, and left marks. And that could be nothing. That could be a whole lot of nothing, you know? It could also show you a whole lot about Violet's hair.
Yeah, it definitely was interesting to me that Dane lived through that, because obviously, like, the whole thing with Soleil is, you know, when they were drawing from the ground, she withered up like immediately.
Yep.
And that was drawing from the ground beneath her. Whereas this is him grabbing you directly, but...
Or was he pushing power into Dane like he had done to Violet, where he was hurting Dane, not pulling and trying to kill him, but pushing into him maybe?
Maybe.
I don't know. Well, either way, Jack placed lures all over Basgioth and on the trail to the Vale. That rhymes. And the infantry has been tasked with going to hunt for those while also preparing themselves for battle. And my thought was, ain't that some shit?
Right.
You motherfucking flyers, riders are here. And they're like, hey, y'all, people on the ground, go track down the ruins. Also, you got 10 hours before they come here. They're going to kill you. So, like, at the same time, do this. Like, well, what are y'all fucking doing? What do you mean? You know, like, why are y'all not helping?
Some sleep.
Assholes. So.
Well, Devera is prepping them for this battle, but basically just trying to find, like, the bare minimum that they're going to be able to do to in any way succeed in this situation. Like, telling them not to take on a Dark Wielder alone. Like, you know, you guys got to attack this in at least pairs. You got to change up your fighting stance because the Venom are, like, mimicking them.
Yeah, they learn from you and change and adapt to you.
Right, which is just like, this scene reminded me of, you know, we always make Harry Potter references, but like the Battle of Hogwarts, where it's a bunch of kids, literally, you know, in Hogwarts. In this situation, these are technically adults, but certainly completely unprepared for what they're about to face. And you're just like, all right, you're going up against the biggest and baddest wizard of all time. Good luck.
See you, children.
We're going to do our best, get some rest, and I'll see you in the morning unless you're dead. And at least the Aeration cadets have had time to wrap their brains around this because they have known about the Venom. They believe them. They have been training on the concept of Venom. They have not actually faced a Venom yet.
Right.
But they have at least been training about the concept of Venom. They know information about them. You know, they've had time to mentally prepare themselves for this. These cadets at Basgioth didn't know shit about this until right in this moment. And are like, okay, well now, spoiler alert, there are these Venom that exist. This whole conspiracy against your country, you know, that there was this threat out there that you were completely unaware of. Well, guess what? It's on our doorstep and now you got to fight them. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. like no chance of success here.
Right.
No chance. So scribes are described as packing the most important text, by the way. So
what
as
they consider to be important.
Right. So like as this battle brief is going on, they're like, hey, this is what everybody else is doing. And I thought that was interesting because, yeah, like you said, and Violet even like thinks to herself or whatever, like, you know, important to what? Like, what do they leave it behind to be destroyed?
And
like,
I was
what history?
Right. And I was interested in that because, you know, assuming what she said, that comment she made could really go either way, because obviously now these are people who already knew about the Venom potentially, but know about him now for sure, regardless. So what would be the motivation to leave behind texts that give you more information about the Venom and how to defeat them? You know, you certainly wouldn't want to still be washing away that history that could now potentially help you.
True, unless you believe still in the fooling the public and you believe, well, we can push them back, we can defeat them, we'll just kill whatever civilians know and whatever village, we'll slaughter whole villages. And just say, well, the Venom killed them in the battle. Or not the Venom, but the Flyers killed them in battle, you know?
These scribes are thugs, apparently, in your mind.
I mean, I'm saying they've been directed to grab certain texts. But the reasoning behind from the leadership is that. You know what I mean? I'm saying that's what I think.
Well, she says that this is going to be their darkest hour, and it's on the longest night of the year, which I thought that was just like so poetic to have that. You know, it definitely is setting the scene.
Oh, yeah.
For this epic battle.
Yeah. And they're all preparing themselves to die pretty much. And Violet tells Andarna to leave. And she says again, I'll be where I'm needed. And that's with you, which is true.
And then this interesting interaction happens where Lilith was assigning people to different areas where they were going to be. They're going to be in these grids, which I thought was a smart way of approaching this. But Mira was put with Violet, and Mira argues with Lilith immediately. And both of them were like, absolutely fucking not, because she says that Mira should be with Lilith to shield her as a last line of defense instead of with Violet, which I was kind of surprised that Mira would.
And Lilith was like, that makes sense. Yeah, stay here with me.
Right. I was very surprised. And she argues that Xaden is the best chance of keeping Violet safe, which, how far we've come here, because, of course, historically, not the case.
Yeah, I would think all of you should be up there. Lilith should be up there, and Mira, like everybody. Like, what are we talking about here?
Well, they're all like in different grids, but she's saying that Mira should be in Lilith's grid instead of Violet.
And I don't think so. I think Mira needs to be up there so that she can shield around really everybody that she's around, but specifically Violet. And Lilith is a fucking general. Like, you and your dragon need to be up here. Like, this ain't no.
They're at the front.
Okay, all right. I would think that's what I'm thinking. They all need to be on that very front.
Yeah,
okay.
They're at the front.
All right, then that makes more sense. Got me all fired up. So either way, Violet says it's a mistake to abandon the wardstone, right? Because they got this broken ass wardstone down here, and she tells Lilith that, and Lilith says, "Yeah, I hear you." And then she moves on, and then Violet brings up again, and she says, basically, your opinion is wrong.
Which, why was she so determined about this? Like, she was like, "No, your opinion is wrong." Moving on.
Yeah, I don't know. I think. I don't know. I'm so confused because Lilith, at this point, you're thinking like, okay, she's come around, everything's better, whatever. And then this happens and you're like,
little
what?
Pieces. Yeah.
I don't understand.
Very odd.
So either way, they try to get a few hours of sleep, which they do, get a little bit of sleep. And then like us, they try to get some ass before battle. Try to get it in.
We go into battle a lot. I mean, to be honest, completely fair. Best use of the time. My opinion,
exactly.
For sure.
What are we talking about?
If you're about to die, that's
what my thought.
How I would like to spend my last hours.
I was like, imagine if this was us. I was like, no way we're leaving that room. Like, it's like we got things to tend to before we go into this battle. But yeah, just worst fucking time. And Brennan is just beating on the door. You don't know.
Somebody's always beating on the door for them.
You're like, motherfuckers. So somebody's beating on the door. You find out it's Brennan, and there's a bunch of flyers behind them. And, they basically, Brennan's like, my bad, I'm a piece of shit.
Well, he says he has left them to fight this on their own in the past, and he's not going to do it again. But make sure that he tells Lilith he's not there for her. And I really felt like I needed this from Brennan, because when he didn't come with them, I'm like, God, like,
what the fuck?
Brennan so far is not really winning any brownie points with me. He hasn't really done anything positive overall. And this was kind of like, okay, a little bit redeeming for Brennan's character.
Yeah. If he wouldn't have shown up, and when he was just like, well, fuck her, she did it to us, and like completely discounting innocent civilians, and it's like, you're making this personal.
Go off. Yeah.
Now, and I understand the thought of like, this is a bluff from Melgren. Like, this, we know Samara is fine, blah, blah. Like, he wasn't able to look past, like, it's a bluff from Melgren to see, like, we don't give a fuck about Samara. Like, bad guys, they're going to take the whole wardstone down. Everybody's going to die. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I needed that from him, too.
And then, again, it also was important for Brennan to come, because it's a big plot point that she asked Brennan if he can mend the wardstone. And he says that he will try. And then they ask for a request to guard the airspace above the ward chamber, which is what they ultimately end up doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's when the end of the chapter.
And that's
like fuck, man, it's a cliffhanger, but you got, we got a whole nother episode covering 6 chapters. We're going to finish the book, right?
Yeah.
We're going to do all 6 chapters. So, I mean, we couldn't have a 10-chapter episode. We'd be in this bitch for 5 hours.
Right.
It'd be too much.
It would be, but this was a logical stopping point, because the battle has not begun, but certainly will once we get into next week's episode.
All right, then. So,
questions and theories. Which I am extra excited for this week, because you have just been building the suspense this whole time.
Have I? Has it been suspenseful?
It has.
Okay. Well, you got the first one. So
I do.
We're going to go through yours first.
So, my question was the whole Melgren seeing the battle at Samara. I understand why Melgren could not see the battle at Besgaeth, because the rebellion, people were there.
Yeah.
So why did he ever see a battle at Samara?
Because he saw his own people losing.
Right, but that battle was never going to happen.
Does it not happen?
It doesn't.
Are we sure that it never happens though?
Well, we're sure that it doesn't happen then. And that was the other piece, is the fact that it happened on solstice. How did he know that it was solstice? Was there something like that he could see in that vision that let him know that it was solstice? That whole situation just seemed very interesting. Is, if was it...
You know, he's on my venom list, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But was it the venom had thought about having, there was enough of the venom that were like intentionally trying to throw off Melgren's signet, so they were thinking and actively planning a battle at Samara that they knew was never going to happen, and so that's why he would have been able to see this battle. Okay. But again, this battle was never going to happen.
Now follow my logic of thinking here.
Okay.
Melgren's a venom.
Okay.
So the plan is to convince logically through the actions of what they appear to see, a battle at Samara. Go plead with them. Think about the innocent civilians. We hate you. I fucking hate you. He's still a dick. He's still a piece of shit, right? Because he's been in this meeting and he pushes off. But he's still pulling all of his people up away from Basgirth, where the real attack's going to happen. Why? Because he wants that. That's the plan.
But then just hoping that Violet was going to figure that out. That's a big...
No,
that's a big hope that she's going to figure it out and that they're going to head to Basgirth. At that point, they weren't going there.
I think what the plan was he empties Basgirth. The riders and flyers from the rebellion come to Samara. Jack takes out the ward stone, and the wards fail at Samara. Melgren is a venom. The venom who are interchanged in there also turn. You still have venom sitting outside Samara, and they're waiting. So the plan was
but
for them.
But they don't ever attack because Melgren and them come to Basgirth later.
Because Xaden and Violet never showed up. They went to Basgirth. He was waiting to kill him at Samara. They went to Basgirth. Fucked up his plan. He a venom-ass bitch.
Interesting.
That's my theory.
But Jack acted like he expected Violet all along.
Yeah, he did. He said right on time. Maybe I don't know. They're venom. We don't know. Maybe they can do mind control stuff. Maybe they can influence.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Questions and theories is going to be...
That's a toughie.
Interesting this week.
That's a tough one. All right. What's about to get real fucking interesting?
All right. I'm waiting.
So, remember when the rune was inside the wyvern? All right. All right. So, and I can't hit you with that yet. All right. So, we're gonna remember when that rune... Because if I do, you're going to be like, oh, shit. And you're just going to tune me out. And you're going to be like, you're full of shit.
I'm not going to tune
you You're going to be like, this is dumb. I'm not even going to listen to you. So
Did you write a note elsewhere? Did you write a note elsewhere other than on our document?
I just have it in here.
Okay.
So I kept telling you to remember that note. You better remember that. All right. So the wyvern wakes up, right? They cut the one wyvern open. Boom. Slice him up. They pull this rune, and that wyvern wakes up beside him.
Okay.
How is his eyes described?
Golden.
All right. Wyvern don't have golden eyes. They've never been described as having golden eyes. Even when Bade is being influenced by Jack, his normal golden eyes are covered. Wyvern don't have golden eyes. There's a horde of greens coming. Wyvern don't have golden eyes. I think, all right, based on not just that, but every little thing we've been talking about, that these wyvern are dragons. They've just old, Venom, how Venom become decrepit and they look different, right? Yeah, Venom's got 2 fucking legs. Because it used to be a dragon before. It ain't got that shit now. You know what I'm saying?
So his legs just fell off.
I don't know. They start to change just like Venom did, right?
Okay.
This Venom woke up and had golden eyes. So it's either that and a horde of greens, right? So my brain's going a couple different ways.
Okay.
Greens can't be trusted.
Okay.
Nor can their riders.
Oh.
So if you're on a green dragon,
Rhiannon.
You can't be trusted.
No. Rhiannon's not on a green. Is she?
Rhiannon's on a green.
No.
Yeah.
Is she?
Yeah. All right. So these are the riders with green, and this kind of hurts my argument a little bit. So it is Rhiannon.
Okay.
Which I knew. But also, Jack has Orange Dragon too. So, there's that. But along with Rhiannon, there is Mira, like you said. Ulysses, which doesn't really make sense. Quinn, also Quinn's aunt, was a previous rider. Just heads up, you don't remember that. And Bodhi. And I trust Bodhi. So it might hurt my greens. Okay, so let's not worry about it has to be the color of that. Let's talk about the eyes still.
Okay, I'm listening.
So Venom, they're let's say humans. I don't know what, species everybody is, but let's just say Venom, and they were humans before that.
I think they're still humans.
Yeah, I guess so, but they like turn, whatever. But like she's talking about like, sometimes like their skin is like all the same. Like they're just starting to look like
veins distended.
Right. Like I'm just saying, what if one of two things, and I don't know which one it is. My theory's all over. They're dragons, or wyvern aren't bad. They're just another species. Like there's griffins, and there's dragons, and there's wyvern. And just like Bade might not have been bad, Bade was being controlled by Jack. The wyvern are being controlled by Venom. They pull out that rune, and that wyvern's eyes have turned opaque. Or not opaque, they've turned golden. They're being controlled by the Venom that created them, the Dark Wielder that created them.
And by create them, with this theory of yours, if they're dragons originally, are they placing this rune inside of them, and that's how they are controlling them?
I'm thinking so. What if Bade is not going to stay dead-ass Bade? That's what's...
Well, he probably will, because his like neck was slit. Like he was like killed. It wasn't because the other ones didn't stay dead because it was the wards that weren't fully functioning.
You're right. Okay, you're right. I like that.
But Bade, he gone. I think.
All right,
he's dead.
I think so. But that golden eye wyvern, I don't think he was gonna kill him. I don't think he was gonna wyvern on their ass. Right? The Dark Wielder pointed his staff, and the wyvern went and killed himself. Basically, what you think is killed himself. Then and then he gets pissed again, and he throws down this staff, and the other wyvern, and he goes into the wards, basically like sacrificing them. But then they wake up with the golden eye. I don't know. I just think there's more to it. All right, all of those things
that the wyvern are actually. Let's summarize this theory.
Okay.
Because obviously, if we want to come back to it, we got to summarize it.
Okay.
You think that the wyvern were once dragons,
potentially, or their own species, but not this evil that they're described as.
Okay, and that they are not bad.
No, not
they're
inherently bad.
They're just being controlled by bad venom.
Correct.
Okay.
So, again, and that is based on multiple different things throughout that are kind of pointing at, again, their eyes, the way different eyes are being described. Like, why point out that the wyvern's eye was golden when they're never golden?
Okay.
It's there because it's telling you something that's different. Okay. Something has happened, something's changed.
I agree with that. I absolutely, I agree that there was something to that, and the golden eye seemed to be a very prominent thing.
Now, Jax, there's a horde of greens coming. There's something and I don't know what that is. My first thought is like, okay, green dragons, right?
Well, they keep referring to the wyvern, the colors, as their fire colors, because they breathe different color fires, which we don't really have an explanation for why.
No.
But could the fire they breathe be in correlation to the dragon color they once were?
Could be. I don't know. That's something. My theory isn't like, oh my gosh, I've got you convinced. It's just like,
it's there.
Did you pick it up? Like, do you understand where my head is going of this possibility?
I understand.
There's something to it.
Okay. Like you said, I'm not 100% convinced, but I see the direction that you're headed, and I'm not inherently disagreeing with it.
Okay, I can accept that.
Well, my note was literally about the wyvern too, which could, in theory, help support your theory here. The stone inside of them that has the rune on it was made of onyx, which we talked about earlier. Onyx seems to just be popping up everywhere.
Yeah,
but
we should have known it was onyx because it's going to be in a title.
Yeah, I know, because it's like how many references to the word onyx did we have in these first two books? But could this onyx storm, we've theorized about what onyx storm is referring to, could it be referring to the wyvern in some level?
Yeah, okay. Onyx storm, yeah.
The onyx is inside of these wyverns.
She's described them as looking, remember when they were coming to the cliffs, initially meet them, it looked like a storm of gray.
Yeah.
And it was wyvern.
Right.
Oh, man. We figured out the title.
We figured out the title.
We figured out the title. Onyx Storm is referring to
a horde of
the wyvern.
Which is probably not at all
the
truth. But
it is, guys. Mark it. Bookmark that shit. Here it is.
Well,
what day is this coming out on? October 21st.
Oh, yeah.
If you're listening to it on day one, we figured out the book title.
We figured it out.
Gotcha. Yeah. I have one more.
I know, and this was a big one. This was the one that you started trying to just get way into detail with. And it was such a good theory. And such a good conversation that I was like, no, we have to wait and have this conversation.
So Into chapter 59.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to read to you basically a couple of events in the order that they happen.
And the order is what's important.
That is what's important. So it is the order of which this happens. Jack kills Bade. The dragon's cry stops abruptly when he pushes the blade all the way through his neck.
Mm-hmm.
That makes you think that's the end.
That's
Bade
the moment that Bade dies.
Bade has just died. Then, as Bade is starting to fall, Jack wields for the first time and under the wards as a Venom. Wields with an outward-facing palm, throwing a shield that deflects Xaden's shadows as blood sprays from Bade's neck to the wardstone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, we have Bade's cry has stopped.
Mm-hmm.
He has died.
In theory, yes.
In theory. Jack is a Venom who now, for the first time that we know of Jack in general, or a Venom under the wards, has just now wielded.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's countered Xaden, who's the most powerful rider of his generation, Signet, immediately.
And and we have more to talk about with this, but the first thing is that when it says that he wields, we have been wondering what Jack's signet has been this whole time. We haven't known what Jack's signet is. Is this Jack's signet? And the reason that that's a question is for a couple of things. Is one, he says he's like throwing a shield. Like, is that his signet is shielding? Is it like Mira's?
Countering.
Or is it counter signet like Bodhi's?
Right.
Are we
or
learning?
He's a Venom, and Venom adapt to your fighting styles. Do they adapt to your signet when they can wield?
And part of a reason why this is important is because the assumption would be that if Jack had a signet from his dragon this whole time, we didn't know what it was, he should not be continuing to use it after Bade has died.
Correct, because the magic has been cut off.
Because that magic specifically has been cut off. Now, he's a Venom, so he's not going to die.
Right, and he can draw power from the ground.
And he can, but he should not be able to wield larger magic while the wards are still in place. Correct. And that's the next part of this.
So far, Bade dies, theoretically. His cry stops abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
Then Jack wields as blood is spraying out of Bade's neck. Right, but he has died. He's just bleeding out still at this point.
Again, in theory, Bade has died.
Then black flames are extinguished an instant before
the wardstone.
The wardstone, yeah. The wardstone flames extinguish an instant before Bade collapses.
So that's where it calls into question. Maybe Bade does not officially die until he collapses, but his cry has stopped.
Right.
So it's a very specific timing here.
So here's the question. Does Jack wield after Bade dies, but before the flame is extinguished, which would signify that dark wielders can wield under the wards?
Mm-hmm.
And is that because he just killed a dragon? He took that magic from the dragon? Because it's like, you see how easily I did that? Like, he took the dragon's power.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, it still says dark wielders can wield now under the wardstone, if that's the order of events. Or did it happen reverse? Did Bade die? Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah. It's so fucking confusing, the order of events.
I think that the other option is that Bade didn't fully die until the moment she collapsed, which was also the moment that the wards were taken down. So he basically, it was like this last ditch. He used his signet from Bade.
While Bade was still alive.
Right before she died. Like in the instant before she collapsed and died.
Which would still signify that a Venom with a living dragon can use a signet under the ward.
Which we also know that that's true because Xaden does that at the end of this book. Xaden is still using his shadows at the end of this book.
Well, because Colonel Atos is a Venom. He's a straight up, like, we know he's a Venom. He's like us, we type of person. Like, he's a Venom. But I don't know if he ever uses his signet. Varish does and doesn't. Like, it's kind of loose, right? Like, we know
he uses it on Xaden at one point, and I guess he uses it on Violet too. So he's using it under the wards too. Okay,
because you think he is, but he also has mind readers in there, and like he's just being like, I can tell, I can you don't know that he actually can necessarily. You think that he can. It's portrayed that way. So that's the question. It's can Venom actually wield beyond the wards, or was it more to do with killing Bade, or was it a simple timing thing? It's written, if you go back and you read the end of chapter 59, from the moment that that Jack is hanging from Bade's neck, or his horn, read from there to the end.
Right.
And just pay attention to the order of events and how it's written. It is going to make you question things.
Well, and because again, it's also just snuck in throughout all of this that if this is Jack using his signet, then we're learning what Jack's signet is for the first time.
Correct. Yep.
Which is this either shielding or the reversing of other signets, whatever it is. Whatever it is, he throws a shield that deflects Xaden's shadows. And that's a big piece of information too.
Yeah.
So there's so much in this one little section.
Yeah, it's like a paragraph and a half, two paragraphs, something like that.
That brings up so many other questions about exactly how all of this works.
Yep. It's I don't know. It's crazy.
I definitely think the simple explanation is Bade wasn't fully dead until she collapsed. He uses his signet real quick, and then the wards are extinguished, and she dies, and then he doesn't have the ability to use his signet anymore, but he's still a Venom.
But the Dark Wielders, everything that they're preaching, right? When they're in battle brief, what do they say? Oh, well, we know that it's going to go hand to hand because the Wyvern can't survive when they cross the wards,
and
the Venom can't wield.
But then Jack says, yeah, right. Yeah, we sure can.
Yeah, and then
but
Jack's
not to the full extent.
Right. So, and they can wield. So, it's a whole thing. Like, they're wrong. They're going in thinking they can't wield under the wards, and they can. If they can get into the wards or whatever,
then they can do something.
So.
But maybe Jack was just only able to do that because he was still bonded to a dragon.
Right. Yep.
But then if Wyvern or dragon, who
knows?
Unless
Bade's cry stopped and Bade died, which means he wielded under the wards without a dragon's magic.
Dragon. Right.
He can, So shit's getting real.
Very specific timing questions.
Okay, so...
Yeah, the next one is Xaden and Tenzek Watch. And we said last week that this section was probably over.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was, but you said, no, ma'am, I've got another moment here.
Well,
and you picked up on a good one. So it's almost like we're doing what I said a little while ago, where we're looking for these instances where even though he has said he's no longer going to use it, he does it anyway.
Yeah, and it wasn't on purpose. Again, I'm not hating on Xaden or anything. It's just, dude... Don't say dumb shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I won't ever use it on you. You should have said, I can't help it.
Yeah.
If you're not shielded, this isn't a conscious choice that I make. This is why our kind is killed. Like, they can't take it and they freak out and they're screaming or they hear all these voices. I can't control it.
Right.
So I will do my best, but it shows up to me in pictures and I can't stop that.
And maybe be honest with you when I have seen it.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Instead of being like, no, I'll never use it on you. Really? Violet's having some PTSD, right? Like, she's going through these tunnels where she was tortured and all this shit. And shit's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, understandably, walking her back through these dripping water tunnels, bringing back sounds and smells and all of these things, that's what does it. People think it's like, oh, you have bad dreams. Like, they don't have bad dreams. It's a sound or a thought or like a smell or something that triggers a certain emotion and a memory in that moment. And you get the emotions and feeling of that moment based on that smell, right?
It's sensory.
It's sensory. That's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she does it 2 separate times. She has like a drip, drip, drip of the water that makes her think of that sound. She's laying on the floor, like dying, beaten and bruised and all this stuff. And then there was another one. I don't remember specifically what the trigger was, but there was one. Both times, the second she had the thought, Xaden touches her, consoles her, and has shadows gently like caress her. Does it again, and he grabs her a little bit tighter around her hip immediately. And it's not a bad thing. He's not being an asshole.
But you're clearly picking up on something.
Right, and you can't help it. And that's the frustration for me. If like she's like, I promise I'm going to. I promise I'm going to.
And that's the other piece is, again, when we read that Xaden POV chapter, the more recent one, he kept picking up emotions. And is that part of his signet or is that just part of their bond?
Right, yeah.
So that is another question to this, is maybe this was not necessarily his intrinsic abilities. Maybe this was just their bond and him feeling her emotions through it. But it certainly seemed like he was picking up on something unverbal.
Yeah. And again, this is not a totally negative thing. It's just to stop setting yourself up for failure.
Agreed.
When you know you're not going to be able, don't over deliver, or
Look at
under
Justin,
deliver.
smart man.
Yeah, over promise and under deliver, over deliver with your mouth. So in the sparring, sorry, we got to introduce the next section. I was just going to get into it.
You're just like, you're on a roll.
I was just flying.
So second signet watch.
Yeah.
Definitely this is the point in time where we know we need to be keeping a very close eye on potential uses of Violet's second signet. And you said last week you thought most likely during the battle is when her second signet is going to make its appearance.
I think it's potential that we have seen it in the last couple chapters, but I think most likely next week's episode is where it's probably going to show up.
Yeah, and we were looking really close during this one. Again, just a quick reminder, the ones that we're keeping an eye for are speed, some type of intrinsic truthsayer, pain tolerance, ability to see, sense the future, ability to amplify other people's signets, having some type of intuition, shielding ability, and compulsion. So lots of things that we're looking for, and we found 3 instances from this set of chapters.
Yeah. So in mine, I didn't really find anything as much as just a thought-provoking part of one.
Yeah, there was nothing that like super jumped out to me, but there were a few.
Right. So the one that I have is in the sparring gym after Violet and Xaden return from Athbean. And they talk, the first time after meeting with Melgren, right? Mm-hmm. So Xaden says, to Violet, you're capable of hurting me in ways I'm not sure you've even begun to fathom. And he said, I might be skilled enough to land a death blow, but you alone have the power to fucking destroy me, right? And my assumption is, and what most people probably believe, is that he's talking about the knowledge of him being an intrinsic, which is implied, but it could be something else. And then I was like, does Xaden already know what her second signet is?
And that it's something that could destroy him?
And it's something that could destroy him. Also, something may have just gotten released that makes it... and what does he say in this new release? So Xaden, there's a part of Onyx Storm, a page, an excerpt that was just released. And what it says is, you're the only one that has the power to kill me.
Well, because she's the only one that can kill Venom.
Right. But...
that's her first signet, though.
That's that signet. That could be something to do with this, too.
See, I definitely took this as romantic.
Okay.
Like that she's, the only one that can destroy him because it's like an emotional thing.
Yeah, okay.
Like no
I
one
took
else
it as
could hurt my
information.
feelings.
I got you. I took it as an information thing.
And it could, very well could be.
Yeah, so again, nothing really there. It was just like a thought that I had in that part.
Okay. Well, same scene. Violet says, I am a person who needs information to center myself. And needs was italicized. So
like she thought needs but didn't say it, or she emphasized on needs?
Okay. She's like, I am a person who needs information to center
not
myself.
Just wants it,
Which again, there's so many references about how the signets come based on need and based on the writer themselves. And we've seen multiple examples here of them referring to Violet needing information or needing the truth. So that's logical.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So the biggest one to me from this set of chapters, and this is one that I have felt all along. I felt it the very first time I read this, and not necessarily related to her second signet so much as it just being very odd. And it was the way that Violet figured out the threat was actually to Basgiath and not to Samara. Because absolutely none of the information, and I read it multiple times this time because I was trying to figure out, like, what did I miss that Violet was picking up on in this conversation?
How'd she put it together so quickly?
It seemed like she went from explaining to Brennan what the taking down of the wards in Samara would mean to the rest of the wards and to the Vale, right to a jump of, they're not going to Samara at all. They're going to Basgiath.
Right.
What? How did we get there?
Yeah, no, I agree.
How did we get there? Unless you had some sort of vision, premonition, intuition, something. How did you logic through that? And there was even on top of that, Kat was asking like, where are we going? What's going on? And Rhiannon's like, Violet's got a look in her eyes. She's on to something. And we've learned that when she's on to something, you just go with it.
Okay, I know exactly what part you're talking about, and I didn't even think about it.
Premonition or intuition, where she is figuring things out a couple steps ahead of everybody else.
That's so good.
And that is Violet that smart? Because there wasn't nothing smart in that conversation. That was just her figuring stuff out of nothing.
Look, this girl's real smart, but I tell you what, she's done some dumb shit. Like, I'm telling you, offer her a glass of water that smells funny, she's going to drink that shit. Every time she's going to drink it and be surprised every time. So I don't. Yeah, no, that's good. I know the exact part. I just didn't think of it that way, and that makes total sense. I love it.
Well, and it's all still, it's tied to the need for information, the need for, the truth or whatever. So I don't know. And maybe that is in some way tied to some type of truth sayer. Like she's not like necessarily reading when someone is telling the truth or not telling the truth, but it's that she can see the truth in a situation better than anyone else.
Yeah, I like
the
that.
Truth was they were going to Bezgaiath and not to Samara. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel like you explained it well. There was no logical way for her to put that together.
Not based on the information
based on
that
what
was
she
on
had.
that page.
And then you have an acknowledgement from Rhiannon, like a sidebar for no reason that is unnecessary to really add to the book other than
we have to
know.
listen to Violet when she has these hunches.
When she does this, she knows what she's talking about and she's right.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. I think that's very smart.
All right
then.
Well, I'm very much on the edge of my seat for this one because you even pointed out Justin has been working on his little collection of words that he has had to Google in the things that Justin had to Google section. And perhaps you guys have a better memory than we do because he has definitely Googled some words more than once and neither one of us noticed.
Yeah. No, it happened twice.
But you also had a moment much earlier on in our coverage where you were like, oh, I may not be needing to Google any more words because I've understand them all. And then the very next week, that was not the case.
Right.
So I'm very curious. How are we here at the end of our Iron Flame coverage?
Well, thus far, we have one more episode with 6 chapters. That's a lot for me to read and not have to Google anything. But yes, I did have to Google 2 words.
Okay.
And
that's a small amount.
It
was
is
only 4 chapters this week, so.
It is. And then I have some information after that, but we'll start with the 2 words.
Okay.
So the first word comes on page 529, and it's Violet basically at the beginning of chapter 57. And she's talking about, basically being tired. And she said, today I'm bleary-eyed and restless. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what bleary meant. So I thought that it meant like watery.
Okay.
Like I'm watery-eyed. And I was like, I guess it's watery-eyed. Like, and I was like, I don't know. Might as well fucking Google because I don't know. And it actually wasn't that. It was unfocused or
like
filmy from sleep. Yeah, like blurry.
Yeah.
So my dumbass was like teary-eyed, like, whatever. So I was wrong there. So bleary.
Okay.
The second one is on page 548, and it was when Rhiannon is talking to Briannon in Battle Brief.
Who was talking to who?
Rhiannon was talking to Brennan.
Oh, you said Briannon.
Briannon was talking to Brennan?
You said Rhiannon was talking to Briannon.
Did I?
I'm pretty sure we can record that, but it definitely sounded that way to me.
I'm not going to edit it, so if it's in there, it's in there. Rhiannon was talking to Brennan in Battle Brief, and she says, spreading out the dragons lessens the efficacy of a power supply. Mm-hmm. Did I say that right?
Efficacy?
Yeah. Okay. So, efficacy, like the fact that I said that correctly is very impressive to me. Like I'm actually impressed. But yeah, I figured that was probably efficiency and it's the ability to produce a desired or intended result, which is like
kinda,
you were able to complete what you wanted to complete.
Right, which is kind of what efficient. Efficient is like doing something like quickly and correctly.
I guess. So it's like spreading out the daggers lessens the completeness or the desired effect of a power supply. So yeah, efficiency. I think it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, similar.
That's what I think. So kind of figure like one like bleary, like I thought it was watery, and it's like feeling like blurry. Like okay, whatever. I guess I could have put that together. But the other one I feel like I kind of knew, but I wasn't sure. So I had to Google. Either way, so what I've done is I've put together a dictionary, and you would think that would just be like writing some words and some definitions down a couple times. It's not that. One, I have a bone to pick. Tell you what grinds my gears is free apps. Okay. A free app is something that's free. It's not something that's free and then you open it and it's like pay $20.
Oh, that always happens.
Where I'm just like, I won't like.
In order to use it, you can open it, you can download it for free. But if you want to literally do anything, you have to pay. Yeah.
I'm going to call this, I don't know, segment like Justin has a go fuck yourself. If you create apps that are free just when somebody opens them, they have to pay to use it, you should go fuck yourself.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Strong words.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're the dick, not me. So If I wanted to pay for something, I would have fucking paid for it. Obviously,
True.
I'm cheap and I'm trying to get it for free. So anyway, and I'm never going to do that. It's going to be free, and then I open it and I have to pay and be like, well, I guess I'll just pay.
I guess I'll just pay.
No, I'm going to go find another free one, jackass. So that's what I did. So anybody who's looking for a free create your own dictionary, I have the best app. All right. And I'm going to give them a shout out. And you know what? For free. Because, hey, why not? And they created a dictionary that you can just do your own shit and it was super easy and convenient. So that is Calamity. Spelled with a K. I don't know. I don't think that's how you actually spell Calamity. I'm pretty sure that's with a C. But Calamity on this app is Kalimaty. I like that. And it's very easy to use. So what I've done is I actually have 2 dictionaries that I created. One is the Empyrean series. The other is Blood and Ash.
Okay.
And I haven't started on Blood and Ash. As you see, there's 0 words because I have read the whole series.
But you haven't started your reread.
I haven't started my reread because I'm trying to focus on this and then we'll start. So for the Empyrean series, would you like to take a guess how many words I've had to Google?
Oh.
Because it's 2 books. It's Fourth Wing and like 11 out of 12 sections.
Yeah,
here.
let me do some math here.
Okay, do a little math.
Episode 21.
Right.
I hate math.
Yeah, math's bad. But I will let you know I've had multiple weeks with 0.
Oh, have you?
I've had multiple weeks with 0 and
So I feel like my original, like my first thought was way too high because my first thought was like 100. That's way too high.
It's nowhere near that.
I am going to go much lower. I'm going to say 60.
Okay, that's a good guess.
Okay.
Now, anybody who's listening to this, I'm going to give you 2 seconds to think about yours. Now, this does not include the fact, and I'll tell you this, it's less than 60. So, but not by much. I found 2 words that I've Googled twice.
You have.
So what I did is I was just like, let me go put these together real quick. I did. I actually Googled 2 words twice. But the total words is 52. So I have Googled 52 different words for their definition. And this is my shout out to Calamity because now I know that. And it's in that dictionary. And all I do is like I open that dictionary and I hit a little plus to add a word. And this is probably for people creating a language for like authors. You know what I mean? They can make up a word, they put it in here, put their definition, and they create their own dictionary.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So that's really like if you're...
So this would be like a glossary for someone writing a book. Yeah.
And it's really cool. So you open it up and you put a word in, right? Like I'm going to pick my first word, which I still can't pronounce, ABHOR, abhor, probably abhor. You know. Anyway, all I do is type that word in and hit the search button. It takes 2 seconds. And then it auto-populates a definition, the pronunciation, examples, synonym, and an anonym immediately.
So are you able to share a dictionary?
I don't know. I haven't looked that far into it.
You could share this dictionary. We'll look into it.
We'll look
see
into
if
it.
We can share it with you guys.
But yeah, so I'll give you an example. I'm just going to scroll. I have an alphabetical order. Bam. All right. I scrolled to pangs. All right. Which I remember without even reading it. It's like the pangs of labor. It's pains. So, definitions in sudden sharp pain, cool. Synonym, twinge. Antonym, comfort. Example, she felt pains of guilt after realizing she had forgotten her friend's birthday. It took 2 seconds, I hit it, saved it, got it all right there.
Nice.
Now, the Empyrean series, 52 words. Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate you. Blood and Ash.
It's going to be
this
long.
man going to have to 52 words in the first book. Easy.
But I feel like so many of them are not going to be real words.
I know. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm going to Google so many wrong fake words.
Or just like, From Blood and Ash has a lot more of the higher fantasy elements to it. So I feel like it's going to be a lot of like the fantasy specific words.
It is, but I'm really excited. And we don't really promote ourselves or anything really well. To be honest with you, it's and it's fine. We understand that we're working parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who like to read and talk into a microphone sometimes, and we just put it out there in space for people to judge us. As a hobby, that's what we do. So
this is a hobby.
It's interesting. We're like, criticize us for fun, please. But we don't do a good job promoting. We don't self promote, whatever, and that's on us. But we have a new series coming out, and we're gonna have to spread the word.
We need to start talking about it.
We're gonna have to spread the word because we haven't done a post, we haven't talked about it, we haven't done shit, and we have 1 episode left of the series.
Yeah, and we definitely are gonna be trying to get some engagement from you guys around the coverage of From Blood and Ash because we have some ideas, but we also want to include you all, you're the listeners, And so we kind of want you guys to help us with what elements and definitely what segments and stuff that you're interested to hear. So we're going to be talking about it on social media this week. But in the meantime, definitely if you have any ideas for From Blood and Ash that you are like, oh, I really want you guys to be covering this as you guys are doing your reread of that, shoot us a message.
Yeah, don't just shoot us though.
Don't shoot us.
Please.
Shoot us a message.
Please. We're not that kind of. We don't. We're good. No, she didn't mean that. Don't do that.
Shoot us a message, an email, or a DM. You can find us on Instagram, TillBooksPod, TikTok, till.books.pod, or an email at tillbookspod@gmail.com.
Yeah. And again, I'm excited, and it's going to be fun, and there's a lot to talk about in that series. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be cool. And yeah, more engagement from anybody who enjoys listening to us and only makes it better. Because we're going to enjoy it regardless. Right. But I just like throw shit out there. I'm like, man, I don't know how to read, so I'm going to have to Google shit. And I turned it into a section. Uh-huh. You know, I don't know if people enjoy that. I think based on some of the reactions and comments that I've seen that people do enjoy this. But,
yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, one more episode for Iron Flame. So be sure to look out for new episodes every Monday next week, chapters 61 through 66.
The end.
The rest of the book.
Yep. And that's going to be it until January, because when Onyx Storm comes out, we're going to be taking a break from Blood and Ash to cover Onyx Storm.
It's not necessarily the end. We are most likely doing an Onyx Storm theories episode between our coverage of Iron Flame and starting from Blood and Ash. And that's going to give us a tiny little break, but also give us an opportunity to fully get our coverage for From Blood and Ash ready to go before we start releasing those episodes.
Get a head start on things, for sure. So, that's going to be fun. It's just a whole Onyx Storm theory section. It's going to be insane. I am going to throw so much bullshit out there.
But it's going to be nice to have it all in one place so that not only can the listeners kind of refer back to some of the things that we randomly threw out there, but also we will have a physical, notes that we can refer back to see whether we were correct or not.
Yeah. Which probably not.
Maybe make some bets.
Probably not. Oh, make some bets. Mouth stuff. All right, then. We'll see y'all next Monday.
See you Monday.